Give him the job.
Calling all emos, computer programmers and blokes called Malcolm who still live with their mum.
Crikey, there must be more to life than this.
It's the revolutionary virtual human interface you can access without ever leaving your bedroom.
And what were you up to the other night? That's what I'd like to know.
How cool is that?
Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. The Two Mikes, Parry and Graham on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
I'm not interested in transgenderisation. I've got no plans à ce moment to turn myself into a woman, believe it or not. So,
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
a very good morning to you, Mike, and I have to open the show by saying I'd like to thank you for your hospitality at Shea Graham over the
pleasure.
weekend.
Yes.
When I eventually got into your house,
yes,
the hospitality was absolutely
splendid. What do you mean
splendid.
when you eventually got in?
Thank you, splendid.
What do you mean when you eventually got in?
Across the rain-soaked field.
Well, the weather wasn't great.
On
That's
the other
hardly my
side
fault.
of your estate,
Yeah.
no umbrella.
Well, I didn't realise you didn't have an umbrella.
This so-called luxury bungalow that I was supposed to be occupying turned out to be a shack.
Well, it was
about
not
half
really,
a mile away.
It was. I mean, it was not really quite what you were expecting, perhaps. But I can't be responsible for the vagaries of Storm Angus, right?
It never stopped raining.
It didn't stop raining, no.
And
as you would have noticed, you know, I was the one that had to keep going outside in the rain, you know, to basically have a cigarette every now and again.
Well, not only that, you had to go out and get the wood for the wood-burning fire.
The wood-burning fire,
Which brings me to another issue.
Yes.
Who on earth in their right mind persuaded me to sit on a woolly rug in front of a log-burning fire and have my picture taken to make me look like Val Doonican circa 1967?
Yes,
huh?
I think that was actually my fault. I don't know what I was thinking, I have to say.
What were you thinking of? Have you seen that picture?
Well, I think we might have to retweet it out.
We've been subject to all sorts of, mockery, insinuations about the closeness of our relationship. I even saw one
Somebody sent it
as the Brokeback Mountain picture of the year.
No, they said saga version.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
Was not very good. I've actually got it here.
Yeah.
I said it. And its caption says fireside therapy for Mike Parry after Bobcat Barb got Everton on his radar. Because I know you don't want to talk about Everton.
No,
but we'll get to that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly people did. I mean, people made ridiculous kind of comments about it. I don't know why.
Well, I don't blame them. I've no idea. What would I do sitting on a woolly rug in front of a log burning fire?
I think you look very good.
With a bottle of Southern Comfort.
Which you brought, by the way.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Just a completely 70s night.
Yeah, that's right. Warming the Southern Comfort over the flames from the log fire. Well, you've also you sitting there staring into my eyes.
You've also got this ridiculous look on your face. I mean, you look as if you're chewing a wasp or something.
No, that was my sciatica.
No, was it?
That was my sciatica playing up. I was leaning at such an angle, I thought I was going to die of pain.
Well, let me see what time this went out, because to be honest, I don't remember what time we took it. It's 9:24.
That's not late, is it?
Well, it's not late, but I think we'd already had dinner.
Yeah, well,
we'd already had quite a lot to drink by that stage.
We had, actually.
So sometimes your judgment can be slightly impaired.
Yeah, it's
I apologise if anyone thought that it was anything other than it was. It was just a very nice picture in front of a very nice fire in a very nice part of the world. Where we just had a very nice dinner.
Indeed.
And for anyone to suggest in any way that it was in some way homoerotic is a disgrace, quite frankly.
An absolute disgrace.
Absolute disgrace.
We made up
I've just retweeted it, so if anyone hasn't seen it,
you can
you go and look at it at the top of my
Now, we made up
page.
for it a bit later when, of course, we did a duet to Thank You for the Music, the
That's
ABBA
right,
song.
the ABBA song, yes.
And, in fact, at the end, it became, what's a duet when it turns into three?
It turns into three? I don't know. Threesome? I don't know.
A threesome, a trio, and, of course, the third member... Ziggy the dog.
Ziggy the dog.
Who got it on actually,
I was very surprised. Took to you very well.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Because
I have that.
I wasn't, because as I've said, we've seen other dogs. They're not exactly like you.
Yes.
And dogs have got a very great innate sense of good and bad.
A dog took to me immediately.
He did take to you very well. Were you secretly feeding him or something?
No, I wasn't secretly feeding him, but I played with him and his duck for a long time. He's got this duck, to explain to our millions of listeners, that he goes around and chews all the time. And, of course, I'm a member of a duck conservancy, so I don't like to see dogs with ducks in their mouths, but this is a rubber duck, and the idea is you've got to pull it out of Ziggy's mouth, but you don't let it go.
No.
And the minute you let go, he gets annoyed.
Yeah,
and makes you do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, it was a terrific weekend. Thank you very much indeed for your hospitality.
My pleasure.
We were only there a few hours, but there were a few very pleasant hours. Thank you very much. But it did rain all weekend.
Don't expect it to happen too often.
It did rain all weekend, and that trek across the fields, mate, to the
I'm
shack
sorry
on
about
the other
that.
side.
I'm very sorry about that.
My God.
But meanwhile, I mean, you were obviously in a slight shock as well that night because it was the afternoon of the Everton-Swansea game.
Well,
and I've got one here from Derek. He says, message for Porky. You're a lucky boy. We almost had you, boy. You didn't expect that result, did you, boy?
Well, I tell you what, Bobcat Bob, you nearly got us, boy. I got you now, boy.
Kenny says, Bobcat Bob pushed the envelope and brought his A game to Goodison Park at the weekend.
Well, I tell you
lucky
what,
Porky.
He must have been studying his radar because he got under Everton's radar. And
I tell you what, if Everton had lost that game, you would have got absolute and utter pelters
it would have been terrible
the rest of the season.
So thank you to Seamus Coleman for an absolutely gem of a header towards the end to bring it onto level terms. And I suppose when you get an equaliser that late on, it's a bit of a comforter.
Well, it is a bit.
If we'd have gone 1-0 up after 5 minutes and they'd have got an equaliser that late, it would have seemed like a defeat.
Well, it would. It would.
It was a bit reversed.
Now, so we have a listen to what Bobcat said after the game.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have a bunch of guys that are angry today and disappointed. It's the way it should be when you give up a late goal like that and you have a chance to take a good win. But I think we'll also be able to find some things in there that are positive. And look, the work to turn this thing around has to continue. There's no other way. So this was still, for me, encouraging. But at the same time, knowing how to see games out, knowing how to make plays at the end. We still have a tendency balls get put into the box. We get the first play on it, but we don't do well enough to clear balls, and you let it stay around in there, and usually you're going to pay the price. So that's happened more than once in the 12 games so far this year.
Making plays.
Well, he's saying, well, got a bunch of guys here. We gave up a late goal, and we have to continue. So,
well, to be serious for a minute, right? They are playing Crystal Palace next, and I'm actually predicting that will be his first win.
So am I. Am I, seriously.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
If you do it, that won't happen.
No, the Crystal Palace bandwagon. Funny enough, earlier on they were talking about a statistic I saw over the weekend as well, and that is that Alan Pardew's picked up 0.71 point per game throughout 2016.
0.71?
Yeah, and it's the lowest in all 4 divisions.
Is it?
Lowest of any manager in all 4 divisions. Right? Yeah, because if you think about it, Mike,
That's to the point a game.
Well, 0.71 point per game, and in the Premier League you play 38 games, so it's 2/3 of the 38 points, isn't it?
What?
With 38 games, if you got a point for each game, would be 38 points.
Yes.
If you get 0.71, it's about 2/3 of that.
Right.
So 2/3 of 38 is about 26.
I see.
You would be bottom of the Premier League.
I see what you mean, yeah, I do. But at the moment, it's Swansea who are bottom of the Premier League.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
And what about your other mate, Sean Dyche? He didn't do too well last night.
Didn't do well tonight.
Did you not pick them to win as part of your treble bet?
One of my three trebles. They're going to win. But one of those nights.
And of course, Tony Pulis. Love his Welsh accent, don't you? Oh, he sorted them out,
He's not that Welsh, though, is he?
Well, he is. He has a twang of Welsh on a lot of words.
A slight kind of, you can detect a slight Welsh.
Yeah. He lives in Somerset, I think, because I saw him riding around on a bike there once.
Yeah.
And I think he does quite a lot of that. I think he does about 100 miles a day or something,
Really?
when he's got a day off. Yeah, something like that.
Well, if he lives in Somerset, it's more than 100 miles a day to London.
Well, he doesn't
to West
cycle
Brom.
to London. He cycles around the Quantox or something. Or whatever those hills
the
are called.
Quantox, yeah. Peter says this, just saw the bromantic photo. Did you have Leonard Cohen playing on the hi-fi?
Well, I tell you.
Actually, I did play some Leonard Cohen, but Porky made me turn it off.
Yeah, I did,
The only one is here, ABBA, and the Beatles.
That's right, yeah. But I have no idea why I allowed myself to have that picture taken. That'll haunt me for the rest of my life now.
I think I'll just keep retweeting that it upsets you.
Well, it doesn't upset me. It's just a different picture, wasn't it? But no, I tell you what, it was quite pleasant as well, walking down Battle High Street and visiting a few of the local hostelries,
Yes, yeah.
Very nice part of the world.
It is a very nice part of the world. Derek in Pencaid has been in touch.
Oh, yes.
He says, Mike, Porky always claims to be smarter than the average bear, but he is no Yogi Bear. I'd say he's more like Boo Boo.
All right. Yeah, I remember Boo Boo Bear. Yeah, the little put-upon bear that Yogi used to sort of knock around a bit. I don't think too much about that. Now, the point is that Liverpool lost their place at the top of the perch.
What did I say last week? Did I not say that I think Southampton will halt Liverpool's massive kind of, advancement?
You didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You
yes,
said you thought they'd win.
I said they would win.
I thought they didn't win.
Yeah, but I did say was that I thought that Liverpool were due to have a sort of a hiccup in their massive winning streak, right? And that's what they had, exactly what they had. In your defence, you said Everton would beat Swansea. They didn't.
No.
You said Burnley would beat West Brom. They got slaughtered.
Yes.
So I think if you're going to compare our predictions,
Yeah.
I think you'll find
Well, I
that
feel,
mine are far closer to the truth than yours.
I will never feel completely unemasculated by the Chelsea 5-0 drubbing, but I feel a little bit better now that Chelsea are top of the Premier League and that they've won 6 on the run, because it means they've become unstoppable, and Everton just happened to be one of the teams they steamrolled on the way to that sort of top position.
Exactly.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Craig says this, that rug pick is great. I can't stop chuckling when I glance at it.
Yeah, well...
It's in a good way, though.
Yeah, I suppose it's right. Now, the old thank you for the music...
Yeah.
That's on Two Mics TV, is it not?
It is certainly on YouTube, yes.
That's worth watching, because I would like people to give us their verdict on our respective voices, because this ridiculous campaign to try and make out that old MG has a better voice than me simply because of a drunken late night 20 seconds on a karaoke machine
more like a minute,
in Liverpool, right, in Liverpool, where the sound warps because of the wind coming in off the River Mersey, right?
The sound warps?
Yeah.
What, inside a pub?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know, you weren't there. You'd gone to bed early.
I was behaving myself, you mean? Sorry, yeah, that's right. I was leading a decent and clean and straightforward life.
Well, that's what you say.
And
I don't know what you were doing in the hotel.
Well, I was sleeping, actually.
Oh, I know.
Well,
that's what you say.
But anyway, look, have a look at that, folks, and then give us your vertical on that one, please. I think you'll find that I've retained my position as the voice, in more ways than one, of
Torcasporto. Now, how about this from Danny? He says, I'm a massive fan of the Two Mics. I listen every night. It's my 26th birthday. Any chance of a happy birthday off you and Porky?
What's the guy's name?
His name is Danny.
Danny, no. Oh, I'm only joking, Danny. I'm serious. Have a happy birthday, pal. Hope you have a great day.
Happy birthday, Danny. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
There was Riley pushing it, shoving it, shushing it, Hogan, Logan and everyone in town. Lined up, attacking it and shoving it and smacking it. They might as well have tried to push the town hall down. The donkey was eyeing them, openly defying them, winking, blinking and twisting out.
Do you know who this is?
Well, it's. I know what's going on here.
Oh, it's your fault, this.
Hang on.
It's your fault.
One of our technical team, in fact, head of our technical team, behind the glass there, old John, who's a movie buff.
Is he the head of the technical team?
And a filmmaker himself, has nicked some... what's the name of that Irish guy with the jumpers who used to...
Val Doonican.
Val Doonican. Yeah. That's Val Doonican,
it is
isn't
Val Doonican, yeah.
So he's trying to insinuate that we look like a pair of Val Doonicans sitting on the rug in front of the fire.
Is that a euphemism for something? A pair of Val Doonicans?
Excuse me, what are you writing down there?
I'm just writing something
down. What are you writing down?
I've just got to write down something from Twitter.
You've got my pen.
That's not your pen.
That's my pen.
Rubbish.
That's my pen.
This is my pen. No.
That went missing over the weekend. That is my £90 pen.
Rubbish. What does it say on it?
Waterman's.
Let's see. No, it's not Waterman's.
It is.
No, it isn't.
It is.
It's a cross pen.
Cross. It's cross. That's right.
So now you want a cross pen?
No, I've got a Waterman's and cross. Where did you get that pen?
I've had this pen for ages.
No, you haven't.
I have.
No, you're telling
One
lies.
of my kids was using it this morning. So I just decided that's quite a nice pen. Maybe since Porky's always telling me I should have a nice pen when I come to work.
I left that in your kitchen. That's my pen.
Well, one of the kids had it, and so I'm using it.
Well, your kid innocently picked it up, your child...
Are you accusing my child of stealing your pen?
Of course not. Your
better
child
not be.
Innocently picked it up in the kitchen. Do you know what?
How do I know this is yours? I didn't see you with a pen on Saturday.
You've seen me use that. It's a royal blue pen. Who else would have a royal blue pen?
Oh, you said it was a Waterman's, and it's not.
It's a cross.
Yeah, well,
but I've got a Waterman's, which is similar, so I didn't know if my cross was my Waterman's.
Pen.
But I lost it over the weekend. And what happened was I must have taken it out of my pocket in my shirt when we had a picture taken.
This is how you acquire all your pens, is it?
No.
You see a nice expensive pen somewhere and you nick it.
No.
I don't know that this is your pen.
That is my pen.
It might belong to the mother of my children.
No.
She quite likes an expensive pen.
No.
It might have been given to one of my kids by somebody.
No, I'm asking you now to accept my word.
No, I'm not going to accept your word, because what if I go back down there, and I'm going to go back down there later today, actually, and they say, oh, where's that pen, Daddy?
I wouldn't do that to you.
And I'll say, well, Uncle Porky has said that it's his pen, so he's now nicked it.
I wouldn't do that to you. You know I wouldn't do that to you.
Yes, I do know you would do it.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. And by the way, I want to thank your children for buying me, as a rather nice little present, a Battenberg cake.
That's right, yeah.
In a very nice...
they saved up all their own money for that.
Very nice gift bag as well. Yeah. So thanks, boys, for the Battenberg. It's very nice indeed.
Well, listen, I will under protest give you this pen.
Right, thank you.
But if it turns out to belong to them...
It doesn't.
I promise you,
thank you.
I will be...
now, have you scratched it, by the way? These are extremely valuable.
What do you mean I scratched
They get scratched if they're not treated properly. I'm going to examine this.
Well, I had it in my pocket with a couple of sets of keys and lighters.
You see, that's what I can't stand. No respect for other people's property.
I'm in my coat. right, I don't actually have an inside pocket other than one that I can put my phone in.
I do.
You know, it's a sort of horizontal. It's a vertical pocket rather than a horizontal one. If you know what I mean.
I do. Now, listen, loads of things I need to talk to you about. But one of them, you won't believe this. When I got back from your place, I opened a pile of books that have been sent to me.
Pile of books? You say I opened a bottle of wine?
No.
I'm not going to tell you how many bottles I had to take to the recycling place today.
Oh, really? Well, you must have stayed up a lot later than me then.
Really?
Yes, because, as you know, I don't overindulge in that sort of thing.
24 bottles.
24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
24 bottles?
24 bottles.
Of what?
Mostly wine, some champagne, and one bottle of Southern Comfort, which I finished off myself on Sunday night.
My God. That is a lot of bottles.
It is a lot of bottles.
I didn't drink anything like that.
Well, I mean, we all played our part in it.
There were only 4 adults there.
Yeah.
Good God. That's...
6 bottles each.
That can't be possible. I don't even drink champagne.
No, I know. No, I suspect that there was some from Friday night, before you were there, and also from Sunday night.
Right, I tell you what I want to talk to you about, man. Yeah. This book that I opened, it's brilliant. It's about milkmen.
Milkmen?
Yeah, The Vanishing World of the Milkman. Somebody's written a book.
Why?
Eh?
Why would they bother?
Well, because I'll tell you why. I'll give you this figure, okay?
Go
on. Just after now in the late 1960s, and we were all around then. You know, 1968, Everton.
Well, when you say we, certainly you and I were.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure about everybody listening.
Exactly. Everton lost the FA Cup final 1-0 to West Brom. But in those days, there were 40,000 milkmen in this country,
right.
And they were a major figure in our community. The rattle of, I mean, you know, Ernie, you know, the fastest milkman in the West, and the rattle of the crates in the back of the electric milk carts.
Well, I remember actually the whine of the cart as well.
Yeah, so do I. So do I.
You know, it was like quite a high-pitched whine.
So do I do. There was an episode with the Avengers, actually, in those days, and the central part of it was the villain drove around in a milk float.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. You knew that another murder was happening when you heard the whine of the milk float outside the door. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But there was...
And then they started selling other things. I used to like the orange juice they sold.
Yeah, I did as well. I loved it.
Which was sort of like orange squash.
Exactly.
Except it was better than orange squash.
Yes, it was. It was fruitier.
I don't know how they made that.
I don't know.
Brilliant stuff.
But it wasn't like, you know, the orange... what is it these days?
Orange juice?
No, it's not even orange juice. Like the orange... Yes, that's right. Fresh orange juice.
Yes.
It wasn't fresh orange juice.
No.
It was orange concentrate diluted with water.
Didn't have any fizz in it at all.
Yeah.
But it just had a very unique taste.
I totally agree.
I've never been able to replicate that.
No, never. Neither have I. 40,000 of those in 1969, and guess how many there are today?
I would say less than 400.
4,000.
4,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to see one occasionally in my street, actually, in London.
Yes.
But I haven't seen him for a couple of years now. But that might be on account of the shortage of milk, I suppose.
Well, of course, there is a great milk problem. Now, what I was going to say is that, of course, you've got to remember that during the war, the milkmen worked on. And they were, you know...
What, you mean if you were a milkman in the war,
yeah,
you didn't get called up for national service?
No, you didn't.
Really?
No, you didn't, honestly, because it was seen as a vital food, you know, that had to be distributed to the nation.
So milk production went on?
Milk production went on in the country where they weren't getting bombed, but then when they brought the milk bottles to Britain, and it was a dangerous job because they were scrabbling over rubble to get to people's homes, and they became part of the rescue service, okay?
Right.
The difficulty is that what happened was, do you remember the Rising family?
The Rising?
The Rousing family.
Rousing? What, you mean the very wealthy people who are always in the Sunday Times rich list?
Yes.
Yes.
They invented the Tetra Pak.
Did they?
And that was the end of the milkman.
Oh, right.
Because
Is that where they made their fortune?
Yeah, they made billions of pounds out of the Tetra Pak. For years, the milk industry tried to find a replacement for the bottle because bottles were so expensive to produce, you know, and certainly even more expensive to recycle in days when we didn't have recycling plants.
But they went too far, didn't they? They started selling eggs and bread,
all of that,
and butter and all sorts of other things.
I nearly got poached by a milkman when I was about
what do you mean?
12.
Poached?
Yeah, I was a brilliant...
Like an egg?
No. I was a brilliant newspaper boy, right? And
of course you were.
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
I was just a paper boy like everybody else.
Well, that's
Why
what I'm
did you be
saying.
a brilliant paper boy?
Well, because I used to do my round faster than everybody else, and then it was a bit like the tea clippers.
Is that because you wanted to?
Yeah, of course. And it's a bit like the tea clippers. If you finished first and got back, you'd get a second round in before you went to school.
Well, did you get paid double for that?
Double, absolutely. That's why. That's why I was a rich kid.
There's no way you had a normal childhood.
No.
I mean, you should have been playing with the toys, you know, having friends.
No, I was 13.
Instead, you were thinking of ways of
12 or 13.
You know, sort of screwing people over and making more money.
No. So what happened was, as I dashed around, of course, you were always bumping into milkmen and all that. There was one milk guy there who said, God, you know, he said, I've seen you, you know, get up and down those paths and, you know...
Did you ever steal from a milk float?
No, never. I've never stolen anything in my life.
What are you talking about?
No.
You've told me loads of stories about stuff that you've sort of half-inched in various situations.
No, I've had to take things sometimes to improve the quality of a story I was writing or something like that, but I've never stolen for my own benefit.
Is that right?
But anyway, I remember this particular milkman saying, hey, young Parry, young Parry.
What was his name, the milkman?
Oh, I don't know, Fred or something, And he said one morning, he said, I could do with a lad like you on my float, He says, I'm not getting any younger and all that. And he says...
And did he own it or something?
Yeah, it was his own little milk business.
Right. Because most of the floats are attached to like a dairy or something. Because I remember there was a Unigate guy.
Yes, that's right.
It was like orange and white.
That's
and it was a three-wheeler.
Yeah.
But then there were others who were four wheels.
That's
which were more of a sort of square shape.
Well, this guy literally ran his own little milk business from the backyard of his terraced house.
All right.
And he used to drive his milk float up the back entry and then load his milk up and all that kind of stuff, And he said, I'll pay you more than your paper round. And so
So did you join him on the float?
Well, no, the problem was I then went back to the paper shop, spoke to Docker Dawson, who was the owner. Docker Dawson.
Who was he?
He was the owner of the paper shop.
Right, okay.
He was a very strange man. And he used to take his false teeth out when he was writing up the papers and all this kind of stuff, And Docker Dawson, by the way, my dad used to see him sometimes on a Saturday night in the Bromfield Arms in Hoole in Chester. And Docker Dawson was so careful with his money. And he owned loads of property in Chester, and he used to rent out, the butcher's shop and all this kind of stuff. Right. But he was so remarkably careful with his money. When my dad saw him in the pub, Dr. Dawson brought exactly the right amount of money for 2 pints of beer and nothing more. 2 pints of beer himself and then went home. He never thought about it. Anyway, so I went to see Docker and I said, oh, look, Mrs. Dawson, I'm really sorry. I said, I'm leaving. He said, what do you mean you're leaving? And he
didn't offer you more money to stay, did he?
Oh, no, he did the opposite. He sent a couple of the boys round to rough up the milkman for trying to poach his newspaper boy. It was brilliant. It was better,
really?
It was better than Ernie. Yeah, honestly. Yeah, it's better than Ernie.
Now, Thomas says, I used to love the Tunnock's caramel wafers from the milkman.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And Happy Jazz says, who's that encroaching on this Kenny Rogers Christmas CD cover?
Exactly,
and then somebody has already sent this out, which has been done before.
Yes.
This is from Dirty Bob. He says the picture reminds him of that scene from Women in Love with Oliver Reed and Alan Bates wrestling naked in front of a fire.
I
think if it reminds you of that Dirty Bob, then you've got a dirty mind.
That's
right. Quite frankly.
This is a very interesting picture. I don't know why we had it taken. I don't know why I agreed to have it taken, but I think it was supposed to show some sort of bonding exercise, between the two mics, seeing as we spend a lot of our time, including on our... This is a plug for our new DVD. Live in Edinburgh, literally slagging each other off for a good hour.
By the way,
so.
I've got some news for you on the new DVD.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've got some bad news for you, actually.
What?
Which I'm going to be bringing you coming
up. I
up
don't like bad
next.
news.
How about this from Matt, who says, it's more like an advert for Old Spice. Although I suspect Porky's more of a high karate man. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I used to love the girl who advertised the high karate.
I'm sure you did.
Remember
what was her name?
Beautiful girl with the dark hair and the luscious lips.
Do you remember her name? Steady.
Wasn't she the girl in the rum calendar as well?
She may well have been.
Caroline Munro.
Is that right?
Yes.
Could be.
Yes.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. We're doing listography coming up a little bit later on as well. So hashtag it listography. Send it at the two mics on Twitter. And of course, you can send it to at Mike Parry 8 or at IROMG as well. We'll pick our subject coming up in a little while.
Yeah.
Julian says this: the milkman gets to our road 8:20 a.m. about 20 minutes after the last person has left the house.
Right.
So you bring back 4 pints in the evening, saving £3. I don't understand that.
Bring back 4 pints.
In the evening, saving £3.
Oh, well, probably what he means is you don't buy the milk off the milkman, you buy it at the supermarket and you bring your milk in the evening, I suppose.
I see. So he's saying he's saying the milkman gets there too late.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But presumably he's delivering to people who've asked him to deliver milk.
Well, I'd have thought so. I thought you pay your weekly milk bill, don't you, or your monthly milk bill or something like that. Yeah.
Matt says, I've just looked in my bathroom cabinet and I actually still have a 20-plus-year-old bottle of Old Spice in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a bottle of recent Old Spice because they revived it and they sent me some, samples. Which I have in my bathroom.
What do you mean they sent you some samples?
They sent me some samples of...
Why?
in the old traditional plastic...
the red thing, red and white.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, why would they send them to you?
I don't know, because, presumably they think I'm an influential person in society and I can help them
So they don't mind
advance.
being associated with you as your scent.
Yeah,
How about
that's
this
right,
from Steve in Sheffield? He says, morning, lads. The gorgeous busty lady in the high karate adverts was Valerie Leon.
That's right, it certainly was,
So it was not Caroline anybody.
No, it wasn't. Caroline Munro was in the rum advert, but she was also the pilot in the helicopter in The Spy Who Loved Me, which that dastardly secret agent, James Bond, who was Roger Moore, blew out the sky with a missile from the underwater white car, remember?
Yes, I do.
Right?
The Lotus.
The Lotus, yeah.
Yeah.
She was the helicopter pilot.
Oh, okay.
And I always thought, when I saw that, I thought, God, what a terrible, awful shame and shocking thing to do.
What?
To kill such a beautiful lady, but I suppose that's the job of a secret agent.
That's a spy business. You can't be sexist about who you kill when you're a spy.
I suppose not.
Sometimes you have to kill the ladies just as much as the men.
I suppose not,
Here's one from Peter who says, you guys must have been a few bottles in when that photo was taken.
Yeah, I think you're
Porky's
right.
back was obviously no longer feeling the pain.
Well, no, it was. I think that's a funny look on my face. Don't you remember how long it took me to
Not really,
actually get onto my hands and knees and on the side? Yeah, it was very painful.
Very painful. Now, listen, here's the bad news I've got to tell you about.
Yeah, go on.
Do you remember, your cock-up with the distribution of the DVD?
It wasn't mine.
Well, it was. You admitted it was your fault last week.
I admitted that the instruction directive to the distribution company was short of detail on the day that the new batch arrived.
Yes.
So orders started arriving before the DVD batch from Belgium. And so the computer automatically started sending out the old DVD.
Okay.
But it was only for 15 copies.
It was
and
only
then
for
we stopped
15
it.
copies, and all those people were sent a new copy of the new DVD.
They
Is
were.
that not right?
Yes.
Well, how do you explain this then? A tweet from Becky in New Zealand.
Yes,
who's
one
been
of
listening
our
to this show for a very long time.
One of our favourite listeners.
She's shown here a picture of two Mites DVDs, which she now has
Why
in
has
her
she got
possession. Because she's just been sent, instead of the new one, having already been sent a copy of the old one, she's now been sent another copy of the old one.
Sorry, so the replacement for the old one was an old one?
It was an old one.
Oh, that's very bad news.
So she's going, I'm hoping to receive the new VD. I keep getting sent the old one.
Well, Becky, we're terribly sorry about that. And we do have Becky's address, don't we?
Well, I'm sure she has.
Well, the
but,
distribution centre.
Maybe you should take this one on personally.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah,
because
definitely.
if she gets sent a third old one,
that's right.
That may just be enough to push her over the edge.
I hope she's going to pay us for these old ones that we keep sending her.
Well, I believe that the new one was supposed to be being sent out free of charge, gratis.
Well,
so
it was, yeah.
But she doesn't need this many DVDs.
No, she doesn't, certainly, no. This is bad news. Bad news.
Yeah, we should make a clock out of one.
Now then, how long have I been telling you that the Royal Navy is kaput?
Quite a long time.
And what did a report from MPs issued last night tell us?
I don't know.
The Royal Navy has been shrunk to a dangerous and historic low and now does not have enough ships to combat global threats.
What?
That's a report published by MPs today.
Well, didn't they know that? They know that before last night?
Well, they should have known about it before last night.
Knows
because
that.
I keep telling them, okay? In 1975, we had 3 aircraft carriers. Now we have none. We used to have something like 60 frigates. We now have 13.
13? Well, that's more than I thought we had, to be honest.
Well, that's not many, to be honest. When you compare the figures to the Americans, I mean, you just can't compare. You compare to the Russians are all over us.
Well, did you see that figure, that particular statistic that came out during the Trump-Clinton election?
Yeah.
When the NATO subject came up, and Trump basically said that he thinks America's paying too much into NATO.
That's right.
America pays more than twice what everybody else in NATO puts into NATO.
That's right.
Put together.
Yeah, I know.
Which is mad, isn't it?
I know. In 1997, we had 12 destroyers. We now have 6.
Right.
And when those 12 destroyers were all destined to be scrapped, the Navy was promised 12 replacements, OK? Of the 45 class, one of the leading ships is HMS Daring. And then the Blair government whittled it down to 9. And then they whittled it down to 6, and that's what we have now.
Right, but I mean, presumably some of these MPs, who may be not quite smarter than the average bear, should have known this when the Navy was being sort of debilitated over the course of the last 3 or 4 governments. Why didn't they say something then?
I totally agree.
What's the point of them doing a sort of after the Monday morning quarterbacking type report and say, well, this should never have happened? Yeah, but they were in Parliament when it happened, some of them.
Yeah, but maybe they were, maybe some of them weren't. I don't know. But I mean, it's an utter disgrace. But I've been warned about it for years. How many times have I been telling you? I look out from my balcony down on the coast, right, in Gosport, across the harbour at Portsmouth, and I used to see 6 ships there minimum. 2 of them were aircraft carriers.
Now you can genuinely stand there and say, I see no ships.
That's right. One of them was Ark Royal and the other one was Invincible. Was it Invincible?
Oh, I don't know. You're the one that lives down there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Arkroll and Invincible, and it was glorious to see, even though they didn't have any aircraft on the flight decks for the last few years. But it was still great to see a couple of ships of that size there, you know. And then you'd see the other, like the Type 43s coming in and out and that kind of stuff. Now you see nothing. I go down there sometimes. You would not know that Portsmouth is the national port and home and centre of the Royal Navy.
Well, I suppose it's not because
there are no ships.
Because there are no ships.
There are no ships.
Presumably, Faslane, which is where the sort of the base is for the submarines.
That's right. Yeah.
Is now the sort of the premier port for the British Navy.
Well,
isn't it?
not really, because remember we've got Devonport as well. Now, at the rate of ships we've got, you've got to close either Devonport or Portsmouth. You can't close Portsmouth because it is, historically.
Well, yeah, but they've
the
effectively
home.
closed it by not allowing anything to be there.
Well, there's no ships, that's the problem. And so I think they've got to close down. Well, I don't want to say that because that would be a terrible thing to happen to Devonport and to the people of Plymouth, obviously. But what they shouldn't do is they should keep both Devonport and Portsmouth open and just build some more blinking ships because that's what we need.
Well, yeah, but that's not going to happen, is it?
If we didn't send £12.2 billion to overseas situations...
12.2 billion?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Certain about it. A lot of which
is... that's in foreign aid?
A lot of which is not foreign aid, a lot of which is wasted.
Well, a lot of it is keeping people sweet, isn't
it? Keeping people sweet, wasted on palaces being built by, demagogues and this kind of stuff. If we could revive all that and get the spending...
Well, how many Royal Naval ships do you think you could build for 12 billion? Probably not that many.
Yeah, you could, because the aircraft carriers, two of them together, cost about 3.4 billion.
Yeah.
Ships that are not aircraft carriers cost about $1 billion each.
Yeah.
So HMS Daring, which is a Type 45, and can do twice the work of its predecessor, by the way, because it's so powerful.
Yeah, but here's the other question. Why does Britain need such a massive navy? I mean, Britain, in the end, is no longer the world's policeman. It hasn't been for a very long time.
No, but we are an island.
Yeah, but so what?
Well, if you're an island, you've got to have something to protect the seas that border your island.
Yeah, but Britain is in NATO, after all, and so that's surely the model, isn't it?
Yeah, but if Donald Trump, the president-elect, is going to say, look, I'm not so sure we're going to give as much support to NATO as we have in the past, then I think that the alarm bells are ringing. And by the way...
Well, they are, except that, as people say, it's all very well for Trump to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I mean, he's already not doing half the things he said he was going to do.
Yeah, sure.
And when he gets into power finally in January, he's going to find that, it is not possible for one man and his band of brothers to take over the White House, albeit part-time, because he doesn't really want to live there, and change the way that America deals with the world. He can't.
If only people had listened to me about the Royal Navy many years ago. When David Cameron idiotically decided to scrap Ark Royal, that's the most... hateful thing a politician's ever done.
Well, where were these MPs
Sheer ignorance.
then? I don't know
where the MPs were. And
who's in charge of this thing, by the way? This MP's report. Who's the main sort of lead on it?
The main guy.
Yeah.
The main guy, let me tell you... well, anyway, I saw Lord West today on the old Gogglebox.
Yeah.
He's a former head of the Navy and head of the...
He's the sort of first Sea Lord.
First Sea Lord he was.
Yeah.
And he just, made it absolutely clear. The Tory MP, Julian Lewis, committee chairman, said the surface fleet was at a pathetic low. For decades, the numbers of Navy escort vessels have been severely in decline. The fleet is now way below critical mass required for many tasks which could confront it if the international scene continues to deteriorate. So it's an absolute scandal and disgrace.
Yeah, but nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to put the money in their hand in their pocket to change the way that the Navy is being run down. The Army's also being run down, by the way.
Yeah, the Army is. Yeah,
and, regiments are getting
I totally
merged
agree.
with others because it's such an expensive operation to run.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And they say they haven't got the money.
Yeah, but you see, the welfare state's too big in this country as well. We spend far too much money on supporting people's no-work lifestyles, which is cruel.
By far and away you know what the biggest...
Cruel and inefficient.
Yeah, but do you know what the biggest amount of money is that goes out on?
What?
It's pensions.
Pensions.
There's people who get pensions.
Well, yeah, a lot of that's local authority money. I think 1/3 of my council tax bill now goes on gold-plated pensions.
That's right.
For people who used to run like the car park services for Epsom Borough Council or something like that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a damn disgrace.
Well, it's not a disgrace if you're getting old enough to get a pension. How about this from David? He says, I assume Porky's DVD business model is to operate at a massive loss to make the listeners happy.
No.
And here's one from somebody who says that they think that you should basically fly over to see Becky personally and deliver a signed copy by plane.
Well,
that's from Matt.
I mean, it strikes me that the young lady has been treated disgracefully. So in one way or another, something's gone wrong. We will put it right.
Yeah, we will put it right. Absolutely.
The two mics put it right.
Yeah, we will. Thank you very much indeed. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Take me on a roller coaster. Take me for an airplane ride. Take me for a 6-day wonder. But don't you pull my ride side by side. What's real and make believe? Baby James and Acapulco, we are flying down to Rio.
That music can only mean one thing. It means that we are going to be flying down to Rio to catch up with Mr. Tim Vickery to find out what's been going on in his part of the world and to ask him about Spurs. However, let's just do a couple of quick tweets. Glyn says this: the milkman is alive and well and delivering by 7 a.m, including fresh orange juice. Go to milkandmore.co.uk. Off out now. I don't know if that means Glenn is as a milkman.
Oh, yeah, he would be. He'd be going out to get his milk now,
Well,
and
he
he'd
could be.
start his round about 2:30.
Right.
Finish at 5:30. Get in the pub for 7:30. Have a bit
Well,
of
not
breakfast.
everybody
and all
gets
that.
in the pub.
You know.
I mean, your
A lot of
life is
people do.
revolves around getting to the pub. Abdul says this: Porky's entire childhood is about making money shocking.
What?
He's that kid in school that never used his lunch money, even when starving.
No, that's
and
not
Nigel
true.
says, I bet Porky was a big fan of Cossack hairspray. Were you?
No, I never used hairspray. Honestly, never used hairspray. I didn't need to. I had such a full head of hair. Used to let it, sort of blow in the wind. When I was walking across the bridge of the River Dee.
I see. Thank you very much for that information. Let's talk to Tim Vickery instead. Tim, very good morning to you.
That's very poetic, and I've got a mental image now of Mike Parry walking over the River Dee, the wind blowing seductively through his hair. I'm trying to think what the soundtrack would be. Perhaps Je t'aime moi non plus.
Yeah, something like that.
No, it couldn't be
Birkin,
French. It would have to
something
be
like
something because he's such a sort of xenophobe. It would have to be something English.
No, it could be Chariots of Fire, for instance. You know what I mean? Sort of slow it down a bit.
Well, if you want to lose that particular image, have a look on our Twitter and you'll see an even worse image of Porky and I posing in front of my fire.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Which many have said is the
Well, it's
most
not disgusting,
homoerotic photograph they've ever seen.
It's a bit disgraceful, that's all. Yeah.
Anyway, Tim, sorry, we digress. How are you?
Well, the man twiddling the knobs is awake there, isn't he? He got right on there with his Vangelis. So
He's a Spurs fan. He's in a good mood for some reason. I can't imagine why.
Yes, definitely. Well, Tim, it's a big week for Spurs.
Certainly is. It's the big one, and I suspect that for the first time in our fairly underwhelming campaign so far, Brazilian TV will have this one on, because some of the other ones, the other groups have already more or less decided. But this is the big one, isn't it? This is the crunch one. This is the see Napoli and die type one, the Arrivederci Roma. Sounds like a very nice little trip to Monaco. I would fancy that. If I was still living in London, I would fancy a little trip to Monaco, just to swan around the
You
harbour.
certainly would at this week as well, because we had this thing called Storm Angus, which is still lashing the rain down on most of Britain. And it would be a very nice place to go and just chill out for a little while. But, I mean, a tough week as well for Spurs because they had that win against West Ham. But after this game, they got Chelsea at the weekend, who look as if they're in rather good form.
Stack them up and bring them on. For a club with such a history of heroic defeats, that we fear no one. I think we all know what we've signed up for. If we get a few entertaining moments and a couple of heroic defeats in the course of the season, we can all go home happy.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
but I do want, with the Champions League thing, heroic defeats for the time being go out of the window, because next March, my dear old mum, she turns 80, so I'm going to have to come back for that, and that could coincide with a Champions League game, assuming that we qualify, assuming that we're still in it. So I'm hoping that the lads can do it for me and make sure that in March, not only do I come back to celebrate my mum's 80th, I can also go to Wembley.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hang on, Tim, hang on. It was my mum's 80th just a couple of years ago, and I didn't couple it with a football match or anything like that.
Why not?
Well, I'm the sort of son who thinks that, when your mum's 80, you single-mindedly commit yourself to a celebration for your mother. You organise a big party, you spend lots of dosh, you lavish loads of praise and love on your mum, and all you're thinking about is football. I mean, have you considered what sort of a son you are?
Yeah, I have, yeah. I remember when my old man passed away a few years ago, I had a look through, he kept little diaries, and I had a look through them, and there was one... I was still living in England at the time when he wrote this, where there was one, I've got one brother, and in his little diary it said, my brother, his name's Andrew, he's just phoned home and asked how his mum was. Whereas the other one, well, we phoned him at his work and we found out he's in Spain on holiday and he hadn't even told us. So that's the kind of son I've always been.
Yeah.
I ain't going to change now.
Well, I mean, Porky's the kind of guy who also, for his mother's 80th birthday party, bought her a great present, which was a framed picture of him.
Yes, that's right. No, I did. It was I had a painting done and gave it to her.
You're so vain, you probably think this conversation's about you.
No, not at all. The other thing I got, by the way, Tim, and I have to say this wouldn't have appealed to everybody, obviously, is I got Mr. Kenwright, who was the chairman of our football club, Everton, to phone her up at the dinner table while she was having her 80th birthday
a bit of an imposition on Mr. Kenwright, isn't it?
Well, it was incredibly good of him to do it, but he did. So
now that is...
Yeah.
From all concerned,
yep.
That is class.
Especially since she's a Liverpool fan.
With a capital K.
No.
I'd take my hat up to you.
She's been a lifelong Evertonian. So, do you think you'll get, your chairman at Spurs maybe to replicate that, Mr. Levy?
I think it's unlikely.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He might ask for paying for it. I think if he asks Mr. Levy to do it. I mean, would you
I
consider
was trying to steer away from that one?
Yeah. Would you consider that if Tottenham don't make it through to that stage of the competition, though, that's going to be better for them? Because I mean, looking at them this season, you'd think, I mean, the top four teams above them are looking pretty good, and you wonder, what is Tottenham's season going to end up like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I still look at the team, and I still think, who there can you really, really rely in a difficult circumstance? And I'm still not seeing enough. I'm still not convinced, although there is clearly a long-term project there. And that long-term project, if you put that hand in hand with a new stadium with a bigger capacity and a bigger cash flow, then I know that, Kane said in the long term we're all dead. But in the long term, I am very optimistic about the way that the club's going.
Absolutely right. Now, what's been going on in your part of the world? We had the World Cup qualifiers last week. Obviously, we had our own sort of World Cup stuff going on as well. What have the big stories been?
Well, what a shame from our point of view that we have to wait till the end of March for the next round, because it's great stuff. It's really, really gripping. The good news for football fans everywhere is that Brazil have well and truly got their mojo back. They beat Peru last week away. That's 6 wins in 6. They are practically qualified. We've still got six rounds of qualification left. But Brazil, 6 wins in 6 under the new coach. 17 scored, only 1 conceded. And that was an own goal. So they are absolutely flying at the moment. Yet there's plenty of tests still to come. But, for people of our generation who grew up on Brazil having that magic, which they've lost in recent years, there's a chance they might be getting it again, and that's wonderful to see. That's something for football fans all over the world to celebrate. The fact that Brazil looks like they've got their mojo back. As for Argentina, well, Messi was out of his skin last week. We were talking this time last week. It was an absolute crunch game against Colombia, and he won it on his own. Yeah. He scored one, a magnificent free kick. He laid on the other 2. It really was Messi 3, Colombia 0. And Argentina are still, as it stands, they're still down in 5th, which is outside the automatic qualification places. If they finish 5th, they'll have a playoff. The opponents will probably be someone like New Zealand, so they will get through, but they have to finish 5th. They can't finish 6th. And if you look at the games to come, the next 3 are all tough. A home to Chile, which is a crunch game, away to Bolivia. That's 3,600 metres above sea level. No one likes going there. No. And then away to Uruguay. So there's a real chance that after these next 3 games, Argentina will be down in the deep stuff again. So the one with Argentina is going to go right to the wire.
Yeah. I mean, talking about Messi, because in a week when Wayne Rooney's name was all over the headlines and talk of him not being the player that he was and all of that, I mean, Messi's not shown any signs of slowing down, really, is he?
No, well, I don't think his lifestyle is quite the same as Wayne Rooney's.
No.
Although something which I'm a Bobby Moore fanatic. I grew up with Bobby Moore as the England captain, and just the sight of Bobby Moore just leading them out, with the ball. I think it's magic, absolute magic.
I agree with you. I agree. And such a simple England kit in those days: a white shirt, dark shorts, and white socks, and his shorts rolled up at the side of his hips, and he always carried the ball nonchalantly in his right hand against his hip.
It was magnificent. It was so imperious.
Yeah.
But Bobby Moore, if you get into his life, there's an awful lot of drinking going on, a real lot of drinking. He got done for drink driving in the end, and it seems like for years he kind of got away with it by wearing a kind of chauffeur's cap.
Yeah.
And that was his little trick. And he had other little tricks, apparently. He always drank halves.
Sorry, Tim, I don't understand that. Why would wearing a chauffeur's cap stop a policeman from asking you to take a breathalyser test?
Well, the idea being, and we're going back into a day where...
I'm not sure they even had the breathalyser test when he was getting done first.
Yeah, it didn't quite have the crackdown.
Yeah.
And the idea was the police were less likely to stop someone in professional gear.
Really?
With a
I see.
That apparently was the theory behind it.
So if you're
there was an awful lot of drinking going on with Bobby Moore.
Oh, there was.
And he had a thing of only drinking halves and also never loosen your tie.
Yeah.
So you never look out of it.
Yeah.
But there's... I don't know what you feel about all this moralist thing that Wayne Rooney's got over the last few days, because we know, and you don't have to go back very far, when, players from English clubs, they'd be out on the Raz twice a week.
Yeah.
It's the influx of foreign players who don't have the same beer culture, which has reduced.
But
that
I think it's also. I think it's also. The nature of the game has changed as well. I mean, there were times when you would get French players drinking wine and smoking and all of that. And I mean, I think some of them probably still do. It's the fact that football has now become such a money business, and if you are going to take your athleticism seriously, then surely you should treat your body properly.
Yeah, and maybe that's one reason why Rooney seems to have dropped off a little bit. I think, certainly with the amount of money in the game, the foreign players were very quick to realise, weren't they, that your body is your company. So you look after that, and you extend your earning period for longer. Do you think that it's still a problem with English players?
It might be with some. You know that there was a book written on Bobby Moore only this year, Matt Dickens, I think, from the Times, and the one theme through it all is, he said Bobby Moore throughout his life always told all his teammates, "Win or lose, boys, on the booze,
always
boys."
On the booze,
yeah, absolutely. So absolutely right. It was a very, very common theme within his life.
It was, I'm afraid. Now, just one final story to get from you with 30 seconds left, Tim. Tell us about this goal celebration in Argentina that caused chaos.
Yeah, it's a fellow called Teo Gutierrez. He was playing for Rosario Central. He's a Colombian striker, but he used to play for River Plate, and he supports River Plate. And when he scored a goal against Boca Juniors, he celebrated by miming the River Plate flag, and that just sent it all off. And that is seen.
How do you mime a flag?
Well, he kind of drew a sash across his shirt.
Oh, I see.
And it just went all off.
Yeah.
He got sent off for it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he might well face prosecution for inciting a riot.
Well, that's like playing the old, flute at a
tin flute.
Rangers Celtic game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely
that kind of thing. Although there's no sectarian thing here at all. It's just one football team and another football team. The Glasgow thing is a little bit different. There are other things, other levers in society that you pull when you play that flute.
Yeah.
It's not the case here. So it really is. And he shouldn't have done it, and he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was playing with. But all the same, it is surely a case of adults acting like children.
Yes, well, I'm afraid we see an awful lot of that here at Talk Sport.
We do.
Tim, thank you very much indeed. We've got to go. We're the two mics. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Alex has sent a couple of tweets in, and he says this. The first new aircraft carrier will be down your way next spring, though she won't be ready for a while. And when she is, there will still be no aircraft to put on her.
That's
the
right.
second aircraft carrier is well ahead of schedule, so hopefully that one will be ready as well. He says, just to let you know, I work at Rosyth Dockyard as a security guard and have done since before they started at HMS Queen Elizabeth and HMS Prince of Wales.
Yeah.
Personally, I think one of them should have taken the name Ark Royal.
Well, I was told by my naval intelligence friends down on the coast.
What, you mean the Commodore?
No, the Commodore is from the sailing club.
The guy that staggers about in the sailing club.
No. That's the.
Well, I thought he was your high level intelligence contact.
No. I have naval intelligence contacts who do not appear in public at the sailing club, and one of them told me that. Now, how do I put this? There is to be an approach made to the Prince of Wales to ask if he would defer to the title Ark Royal on the second carrier.
Right.
Because the feeling in naval circles is that whilst there's an aircraft carrier in the Royal Navy, there's got to be the name the Ark Royal has got to be perpetuated.
I see.
But whether or not you can approach the Prince of Wales, who's going to be the next king, and say, look, we'd like to take your name off a ship, is apparently very controversial.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What, because people would object to it?
Well, I think the protocol of it all is that now it's been announced that it's going to be, obviously the Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. Is it Queen Elizabeth II or just Queen Elizabeth?
I don't know.
I think it's just Queen Elizabeth, actually. I mean, that goes without saying because that will be historic, and in all probability, the ship will still be around when Her Majesty is not.
Yes.
If you see what I mean,
Indeed.
for obvious reasons of age. But
and the HMS Prince Charles, similarly.
Well, it's Prince of Wales.
Prince of Wales,
yeah,
sorry,
exactly. And so the idea is that the second ship, which comes into service after Queen Elizabeth, will in fact be the ship with the name of the reigning monarch on it when it's sailing the seven seas.
Yes.
But there is a feeling within the Royal Navy that if we have an aircraft carrier, and particularly if we've got two, one of them should be named the Ark Royal.
Yes.
Because it's historically,
Well, maybe somebody will do one of these petitions, which seem to be so popular.
Yeah, that's right, the flagship
now,
of the Royal
you'll
Navy.
like this tweet we've had from somebody called Dwayne Wright.
Oh, yes?
Who says, talk about sport occasionally and stop shouting over one another.
Oh, is that
Now, he
right?
sent this tweet 4 minutes ago.
Yes.
So if you'd been listening 4 minutes before that, you would have heard us talking to Tim Vickery.
Exactly.
Which was for about 10 or 12 minutes.
About Brazil, about Argentina,
all about football.
about the Champions
He calls
League,
himself
about
a
Spurs.
singer, actor and comedian in the Northwest.
Really?
And he does a radio show on the Wainwright Way.
Okay.
On Filed Coast Radio.
Yeah, well, that's near Blackpool.
Yes.
That's that part of the world. Yeah, well, good
You can
luck
listen
to
it from
pal.
2. You can listen to it from 2 to 5.
Very good. Well,
I don't know if he talks about sport.
Very good luck to
or
you.
Or shouts
and,
over himself.
Yeah, and hope it goes well.
Yeah.
And it sounds like sounds promising.
Yeah, it does.
That's what
How about this one from Alex, who says, Bobby Moore said, win or lose, we're on the booze. If we draw, we'll drink some more.
Who was that?
Bobby Moore.
Oh yeah, well he did. I mean, there's never been a secret about it. I didn't know about the old chauffeur's cap, but that's quite interesting.
It is, isn't it?
So what he's saying is, so somebody who looks like an official driver can't be intoxicated. So you
what they're suggesting is there's less chance of the police pulling them over on the basis that they wouldn't expect
They're
somebody who drives
drivers.
for a living
Yes.
to be drinking.
So you don't. I mean, for instance, you don't get many reports about drunken bus drivers, and when you do,
No.
it's a very sensational story.
When I was a young sort of man playing a lot of golf,
Yes.
and my dad and I used to go down to the Royal Mid-Surrey Golf Club quite
Right.
a lot. There was an old Irish doctor there, who never used to play golf,
right?
But used to get down there, having done his surgery,
Yes.
until about 2 in the afternoon,
Right.
And he would come to the men's bar and basically drink Irish whiskey for
all
about
afternoon,
9 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he would drive home at 11 p.m.
Right,
every
yeah.
night,
Yeah.
like clockwork.
Yeah. What sort of car did he have, by the way?
I think he had one of those old sort
like
of
a Rover or something.
I think he did have a Rover.
Yeah,
It was
that's
something
right.
like that.
Sort of doctor's car that was, in those days.
And he was a very, fine, upstanding member
Yeah.
of the community.
Yes.
But he was perpetually pie-eyed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, you get these people like that. I mean, Tim mentioned about his old father dying a few years back. Well, my father died a few years back as well. But in the last years of his life, he was involved in sort of not property development, but when a housing development went up, my dad would sit in the old sales office and flog the houses. And it was.
I mean, once a salesman, you can pretty much sell anything, right?
Exactly. And it was time.
Like my ex-father-in-law, who was the industrial rubber salesman,
That's right,
as you'll recall.
Who got sacked on the day that he took you to show you his workplace.
That's right, yeah.
But it was a great story, that. But, the thing is, my dad found out that you could make extra money by having a liaison with some local solicitors. And so when some naive young couple, aged 22, came into the show house and said, we want to buy this. Imagine, you remember the Likely lads?
Yes.
You know the house that, what's his name?
Rodney Bewes.
Rodney Bewes used to live in with his suit and all that.
Yeah.
So it's a semi-detached house like that, the very most basic house you could buy. So,
But a moment of great pride for him.
Absolutely. And so these 22-year-olds are going, we've been saving up for 18 months to get married, we've got enough for a deposit. Oh, that's wonderful to do. Yeah. This is going to be our first house. Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. That bedroom's going to be the nursery and all that kind of stuff, you know. And my dad would say, right, now, I really want to help you. Now, you do have a solicitor, do you, to handle the sale?
Yeah.
What? You haven't? Oh, well, don't worry about that because, I know some very good people around here who will sort all that out for you.
So he would facilitate the solicitor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then...
Well, then you then get a backhander for that.
Well, this is the point. He then used to meet the solicitor, or like he had several, on the payroll sort of thing, and he'd then go meet them sort of, 12:30 in the local Conservative club or the Labour club, or whichever club they were drinking in, local gentlemen's club, and brown envelopes would be passed under the table whilst everybody drank all afternoon till 6 o'clock in the evening. Right. Then everybody went home. I mean, that's the way it was.
But I mean, that wasn't in any way unethical in those days, was it?
No, it wasn't unethical. No. Why would it be unethical?
Well, because I'm assuming that there would be some rules and regulations regarding the separation of the seller, the vendor, the buyer, and the solicitors representing the various different parties.
Well, no, my father was just being helpful.
Oh, was he?
You know, he was just helping.
It runs in the family, this kind of skullduggery, doesn't it?
No,
basically.
He was just being helpful to these young people. And of course, then they'd say, "Oh, that's brilliant. You can find us a solicitor." My dad said, yes, of course I can. He said, "Now, how much do you want to raise on your mortgage?" What? Oh, have you raised a mortgage yet? Oh, well, you're very lucky because, funnily enough, I've got a mortgage broker who I know very well who's just down the road. Right. He'll be able to help you as well. So then when my dad had left the Conservative club to get the brown envelope with the solicitor's money in, then move over to the Labour club and get the brown envelope from the mortgage broker.
You didn't pay any tax on any of this money.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for my father's tax affairs, can I?
No, of course not, no. But the apple does not fall too far from the tree.
That's a bit harsh,
as they say.
Yeah.
Now, coming up, we're going to do listography, so we've probably got quite a lot coming in. What we could do, if you wish, is choose the subject matter coming up next. Last week we did things we would take to a desert island.
Okay.
By the way, I haven't told you this yet, but there is an NFL game going on tonight as well.
Yeah.
Houston against
don't worry, nobody
the
cares.
Oakland Raiders, who have just gone 7-3 up, I believe.
Oh, wow, have they?
Very exciting stuff.
Oh, certainly.
Well, the good thing for you about the NFL is it's a very short season.
Yes.
I mean, it only runs till sort of the end of January. And then
how many games do they play? 12, is it, in total?
It's very few.
Yeah,
and then they're into the playoffs, and then they're into the Super Bowl, and by February it's all done.
That's right, yeah. What do they do for the rest of the year?
Well, many of them go and take part in pit bull fighting. No, I'm just joking.
No.
A few of them usually get arrested for various crimes, and then they get back to sort of what I suppose they would call sort of spring training, summer camp a couple of months later.
Yeah, but
it's a very short season.
Well, that's what I mean. So they get about 8 months off, don't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Good God.
Well,
amazing.
Well, they probably have to recuperate because their bodies have been so badly damaged over the course of the few months that they've been playing.
Doubt it.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely recommend it. Anyway, lots more coming up. We've got live, of course, Monaco versus Spurs tonight in the Champions League. Lots more to come. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Now, you mentioned Sheena Easton when we were talking to the boys in the sports bar.
Yeah.
Adrian and...
yes.
Andy Goldstein, I should say.
That's right, yeah.
And Jason Cundy.
Well, she's on the comeback trail.
Is she?
She's on the comeback trail. She's launching a new musical in the West End.
Is she ever not been on the sort of, not the comeback trail, but I mean, does she not do a show in Vegas or something like that?
In recent years, she's had a few sort of, not medical problems, but, she...
health issues.
Health issues, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And there was a picture of her, I think, in 2013, when she was in a wheelchair.
Oh, really?
Looking a bit forlorn, coming out of some dental clinic where she'd had sort of major surgery on her teeth or something.
Yeah, right. How's your dental work coming along, by the way? Have you been back for the second bit of it?
No, because it was supposed to have been done last week, but because of my secret mission...
Oh, the secret mission continues, right?
Which still continues. I mean, I was on secret mission duty today, and I'm on secret mission duty again by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
We better not mention it then.
No, and it's getting, more and more important by the day. But anyway, point of the story is...
Yes.
What did you say?
The
dental. That's now been
put off.
Well, I was
asking about your teeth. So when are you going to get those done then?
I'm going to check that out because there has been a rearranged date, but I'm not sure when it is.
Okay.
I've also got a rearranged date for, several procedures which need doing, which had to be moved. But anyway, look.
Right.
57-year-old Sheena Easton is...
How old?
57.
Oh, 57.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going to show you a picture of her at 57. I think she looks marvellously good.
She does look great,
right?
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
She's a tall lady with auburn hair.
She's been married 4 times.
Long legs.
Did you know that?
High heels, patterned, flowery dress. She looks lovely.
Did you know she'd been married 4 times?
I didn't know she'd been married 4 times.
Yeah.
I know that she's her career spanned 4 decades, okay? She sold over 20 million records. Most famous songs include 9 to 5, We've Got Tonight with Kenny Rogers. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
I don't remember that.
It's a great song, yeah. It's a Bob Seger song, I believe.
Bob Seger, okay.
Yeah. And the Silver Bullet Band.
Silver Bullet Band. And, of course, You Got the Look. A duet with
Prince.
Exactly.
Well,
with
Prince,
whom
well, Prince
I think she had a romance, didn't she?
I think she did. I mean, Prince was largely responsible for completely kind of rejuvenating her career because she went to America as a kind of very, what I would call bubblegum type pop star.
Naive.
I don't know about naive, but I mean in terms of the music. But he turned her into this kind of siren, wearing sort of leather jumpsuits and
that's right,
smoking at the camera and all that kind of thing.
That's right, yeah.
But have a look at this, right? Her first marriage was in Scotland to Sandy Easton at the age of 19. The marriage lasted 8 months.
Yes,
he died.
But then she went on to the. She apparently rose to fame on some talent show.
Yes, was that Opportunity Knocks or something?
No, it was called. What was it?
It was something like that. Wasn't it?
I can find it. I'm looking through my notes.
Are you?
Different ones. Launch of a new musical.
Well, why don't you
reality show, The Big Time.
The Big Time. I don't remember that.
Yeah, who made her name after starring in 1980 BBC reality show Big Time. So what year was her first marriage?
Her first marriage was, it doesn't say actually, well, she was 19, so she's now 57. You figure it out.
Yeah, okay, so it's about 38 years ago.
Yeah.
And 38 years ago from now is 2008. That's 1978.
Yes, there you are.
So 1978 she got married. 1980 Big Time reality show.
Her second marriage was 1984.
Right.
To Rob Light, who was a talent agency.
Yeah.
That only lasted 18 months.
Right.
Right.
Not successful at marriage.
She's not. She then moved to America, right, and became an American citizen.
Yes.
And in the summer of 97, she met producer Tim DeLarme while filming an episode of ESPN's Canon Photo Safari in Yellowstone.
Right.
And they married in 97. That marriage lasted 1 year.
1 year, right.
And in November 2002, she married John Minoli, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. Now, that's an interesting thing.
Golly, it is,
Does that suggest that she's had some plastic surgery work?
No, it doesn't.
No?
Not necessarily.
Well, you marry a plastic surgeon, he doesn't do anything for you.
Wasn't Victoria Principal married to a plastic surgeon?
Well, she might have been.
Yeah, I think she was.
They divorced in 2003. So basically, most of her marriages have lasted 1 year.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Not hugely successful. Anyway, she won a Grammy Award, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad, is it? That's
very good.
Not many people win that.
Not very many do.
And it says she's going to play the role of Broadway star Dorothy Brock in the 42nd Street revival.
Yes.
The new show will be directed by Mark Bramble. I don't know what that's got to do with it.
Well, they always put the director's name on because he's quite an important man.
Yeah, I suppose you do. Yeah.
And probably most people would have heard of him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Do you know
you're in the musical business.
If you're in the musical business, that's right, yeah. But isn't that amazing for her to come back after all these years?
Well, I suppose it is. Well, she's obviously had a very interesting life. She's adopted a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Married 4 times.
Yeah.
Won some Grammys. Had an affair with Prince.
That's right.
It's not a bad CV, is it?
Not a bad CV at all. Now, listen, you know the internal monitors in our studio?
The televisions,
Yeah. Well, the internal monitors.
Yeah.
And, of course, you watched all this NFL stuff. Now,
I like to have it on while we're doing the show.
I've just seen...
Just to distract me from the ramblings that you come out with.
I have just seen something which has shocked me to the core.
Really?
Now, you know the old bucking bronco?
What?
The bucking bronco.
What bucking bronco?
Well, in these like in Texas they have.
What
these,
do you mean the rodeo?
The rodeo, yeah, and they have a bucking bronco.
Well, they have that's one of the events, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't think they call it.
Did
a
you never
bronco.
play that with your dad when you were a kid? The bucking bronco.
What?
He sat on his back and he tried to throw you off.
No.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
no,
all the
but
time.
I'll tell you what I've done. I have tried the mechanical bucking bronco.
Oh, yeah.
In Gillies in Houston.
Oh, have you? Yeah. How'd you get on?
Very badly.
You really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was a bit bladderated to begin with because otherwise you wouldn't.
Not a good thing to do.
You wouldn't ever think of doing it.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was probably quite dangerous.
Oh, I'm sure it is quite dangerous, but...
That was where one of the bars I went to the first time, and I was 23 at the time.
Yeah.
And they asked me for my passport because they didn't believe I was 21.
Right, okay.
Because I looked so young.
Yes.
But it was one of the first places I noticed the sign, because they didn't have them in New York, where it said, please leave your weapon in the cloakroom.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So you had to check your weapon as you went in.
Yes.
And almost everyone who came in
had a weapon.
Had a gun.
That's right. Absolutely amazing. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about this, and I remember it featuring big in several episodes of Dallas, you know, where Bobby, not Bob, but Bobby. Bobby Ewing was the star rodeo rider in the Ewing family because JR was too cowardly to get on the back of a.
Well, yeah, he wasn't very athletic either.
No, he wasn't. He was more like a money man, wasn't he? But anyway. The whole idea is you get on the back of the old bucking Bronco, don't you? It's got a rope tied round it. And
Well, the idea is you try and stay on it for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, but what is the outfit these guys wear are like these leather chaps, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. A check shirt. And, of course, a cowboy hat.
Cowboy boots.
Guess what I've just seen?
What have you just seen?
I've just seen a bucking Bronco champion with a crash helmet on and not a...
No.
Yeah, honest to God.
Really?
Honest to God.
What, on one of the internal monitors?
On one of the internal monitors. He fell off.
What, you mean now suddenly health and safety have taken a view?
Guess what his name was?
What?
Ryan Dirt Eater. Ryan Dirt Eater.
That can't be his real name.
He's a Texas champion, apparently. He's a
Dirt
Texas
Eater?
Yeah, he's a Texas champion.
That's ridiculous.
Bucking Bronco king. And
Ryan Dirt Eater.
Yeah, and he had a blue motorcycle helmet on, which is the end, as
Isn't
far as
that
I'm
ridiculous?
concerned, the end of the rodeo, man. You know, if you
the end of the rodeo, I like it.
Yeah, if you can't end of the rodeo.
I've reached the end of the rodeo.
Reached the end of the rodeo. If you can't sit on the back of a horse without donning a cowboy
I see
hat,
your attention's now being taken up by the wrestling.
well, the wrestling's ridiculous, isn't it? All sorts of ridiculous people getting in the ring and pretending to wrestle each other and hurt each other. And then the one I can't stand is seeing women wrestle. I just does me in, because I think it's awful to see, beautiful creatures.
Beautiful creatures. Is that your latest sort of catch-all phrase for women?
No, not at all.
Beautiful creatures.
No. Beautiful women, I meant to say, being treated like creatures. Being treated like wrestling alligators or something like that. I think it's absolutely shocking.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you what I saw this weekend, by the way.
Yes.
For the first time,
Yes.
was the new Jeremy Clarkson Top Gear show,
tell me
which
about
I have
that,
to tell you is brilliant.
Really?
It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, the way that they've done it, to take the mickey out of the BBC at the beginning of it, to then sort of prove themselves to be these kind of great guys. I mean, they announce, rather like you and I would do, this man, James May, he's been fired from this place, that place, they talk about Hammond, he's been fired from this other place, and it's just very funny.
Right.
And you realise just how bad the BBC's version of it is.
Really?
And when you think of the fact that the BBC have now lost Top Gear, 'cause nobody will now watch Top Gear.
No, of course
if
not.
you could watch this, right?
No.
And the first episode was shot in all in like the desert in California, around various racetracks. They're going to then go to Cape Town and shoot one there. They're going to be travelling, obviously, all around the world, very exotic locations, and they're just very good together. You know, and you think to yourself, really, was this the best way that the Beeb could have handled this?
Yes.
And then you look at the Bake Off, which they've also lost.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And you just think, is anyone in charge of this organisation?
Well, it didn't work when Chris Evans tried to take it over, I'm afraid.
No.
And that was the problem. So,
and I mean, my
now,
kids, for example, I were so delighted because we eventually decided to get Amazon Prime, which we
Right.
had for a while, but then we got rid of it. Now we got it back.
Yeah.
And so you're paying for it, right?
Yes.
But they don't even bother watching the BBC version of Top Gear anymore.
No.
They're not interested.
The problem is it's being relaunched for the second time, isn't it? And I'm afraid that's the death knell
Without Chris
to a
Evans.
programme. Yeah,
and with the guy from Friends.
Yeah, that's
He's
right.
not really a big enough star, is he?
Matt who?
Matt LeBlanc. I
Matt
think his name
LeBlanc,
is.
that's right, yeah. It's all a bit of a shame, but in a way I've got sympathy for the BBC because Clarkson, and it's an undisputed fact now, so I'm not making an allegation or anything, he punched a producer.
He did.
Now, when that happens, you're in a very difficult position if you're an employer.
You are, but I mean, do you not then try and find a way of dealing with it in a slightly better way?
In one moment, 3 or 4 days afterwards, Clarkson, I'm reliably informed, got into a car and drove round to the producer's house.
Yeah.
And that was a suburb in like West London or somewhere. Or somewhere in London.
To apologise.
To apologise personally, because he realised he'd overstepped the mark, which we all do in pressure situations. You can, you
it
can't,
can happen, that's what I mean.
forgive somebody for punching somebody. But having said that, you can lash out, and lashing out is not the same as punching. Well, I'm not trying to defend Jeremy Clarkson, I wasn't there. But what I'm saying is he went round, and the guys admitted, the producer, that he knew Clarkson was outside knocking on his door, and he was, just didn't answer the door.
Really?
Now, that's unhelpful. Because,
that's not helpful,
because when you've got a
Well, they may have been advised by the HR people.
He may well have been.
As they used to be called by a guy I worked for, the business interruption specialists.
Yeah, business interruptions. Well, no, I totally agree. But you're right. The problem was the politically correct wing of the BBC saw this as a great opportunity to blow Clarkson out.
Yes.
They weren't interested in the amount of success he's bringing the BBC. No. They just thought he's not one of us.
But also, I bet you they didn't.
Like
but also, I bet you they didn't think that he was going to get the success that he's obviously now going to get working for these other guys.
Well, it must have been very short-sighted.
Yeah.
Because when you go away like that and you've got such talent and such a great show, you're going to take it somewhere else. I'll tell you what, I'm going to feature in Porky Vision this week.
Oh, I thought you were just about to tell me that you'd signed a deal with some TV company.
No.
I'll tell you what I'm going to feature in.
No, it's a kind of docudrama on the Freddie Mercury story.
Oh, yeah.
And it's appalling.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a Channel 5 programme, and it's so cheap, it's unbelievable, honestly. It's like watching kids' television, you know.
Channel 5.
Yeah.
Amazing that's still going in some ways.
It is, actually. I'm surprised, because they seem to have one disaster after
Well,
another.
I mean, they've got reality TV shows, haven't they? And that's it, really. They've got Big Brother.
That it? I'm not sure.
Well, they've got Big Brother, haven't they?
Didn't they try a show with Eamon Holmes?
I think they did.
Work or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. It's one of those very
They were
strange
being
scenarios.
unkind, you know.
I think maybe
difficult
we are.
business, TV, believe
It
me.
is.
Yeah.
It is very difficult. Anyway, listen, I've got some more bad news for you coming. I don't want to make this a bad news show.
What?
But I've got more bad news for you coming up. So if you want to get some problems solved or ask some questions about anything in particular, you hashtag it Ask Porky and send it in to us at the 2 Mics on Twitter. Now,
Indeedy.
we're going to do listography soon. Send us a few more ideas. We've got quite a lot already.
Yes.
But I'm not sure we're going to settle on one just yet. Right now, though, we're going to talk about Jurgen Klinsmann. Terrible result for the USA against Costa Rica in the World Cup qualifiers. And as was predicted by some, Jurgen Klinsmann has now been fired. Let's talk to Janusz Michalik, former player for the USA himself, as to what happened, what went wrong, and who's going to get the job. Janusz, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
How are you guys?
Yeah,
very well indeed.
Very well indeed. Now, I mean, this is quite a surprise move in a way, isn't it? I mean, Jurgen Klinsmann just a few months ago, certainly a couple of years ago in the Brazil World Cup, was the big hero of American football. The whole business was thriving off the back of his team's enthusiasm and their ability to get much further in the World Cup than they should have done. Where did it all go wrong?
Well, you lose 2 games, in a hex in the final round, and that's what happens. There's a lot of money at stake, right, for any country in the world to go to the World Cup, and unfortunately, he lost to the 2 biggest teams. CONCACAF qualifying is somewhat forgiving, so I think, who knows, maybe he would have gotten right. But, when you look at what he's done over 5 years, it's nothing more than anybody else has done up until then, right? I mean, as you know, U.S. makes it to the World Cup, usually gets out of the group for the most part. Other coaches have accomplished that. I think, there are a lot of promises on his part to change, the way U.S. soccer operates. But I just, to be quite honest, I never saw it, Boyce. I just, there was nothing different. If anything, he was so incredibly inconsistent and let's be honest, tactically lacking.
Janusz, was there ever question marks over his commitment to the job? Because, there's always been speculation about him being offered jobs back in Europe, but it was said, well, yeah, but he won't leave his home in America anymore now, and he'll do it from long term. You always kind of got the feeling that any managerial job he took, he sort of, it was almost like part-time to his other interests in life, which are extensive in terms of sports promotion.
Well, I think you could have said that when he was in Europe. I mean, there's no secret that, he wanted to live here. I mean, his son is playing for the U.S. national team, under 20 team, right? I mean, he loves California. His wife's from there. So I can see when he was in charge of Germany and where he wanted to come back. But I don't think that's the case. I think he's put his heart into it, and he's worked extremely hard. His job wasn't possible by the fact that he was given the technical director job. Yeah. I don't think that's possible in any country, and never mind the size of United States and with antiquated rules anyway. I mean, that's the biggest problem the U.S. soccer has is the development stage, not necessarily the end product, really. I mean, not that there aren't any problems there, but, his job is to get the U.S. team to the World Cup. And I think he would have done it. But after 5 years, he's picked wars with Major League Soccer. I think he came across as a sort of, I know it and you don't. Right. As you know, he's picked fans with journalists, fans, Major League Soccer, which I get it. I think I understand what he wanted to do by virtue of being European, by virtue of being World Cup winner. I think he saw a certain amount of softness and that, the change of attitude that was needed. And I think, part of what he wanted to do I get it. I think he was right in it, but I think he went about it in the wrong, in a roundabout way, to be quite honest. I think he was very, very poor communicator, not just with the team.
And he also did he not? He had this kind of mantra that he was only really interested in players that had played in Europe, wasn't he? Then he used to favour players who had experience of playing in the European leagues, which must have not been exactly diplomatic from the point of view of the US people.
if they were world beaters, I can understand it, But if you look at Timmy Chandler, for example, from Eintracht Frankfurt, even John Brooks or Denny Williams that plays at Reading, some of the German players. I mean, they're good players, but they're okay players, but nothing more. They're role players on the club teams, and when they come over to play for the national team, they don't necessarily raise the level. So, I mean, you can always argue that if this is going to be the argument, these players better make a difference. And I don't think that's ever been the case in this team. Not to mention, as I've said, I think for me, I always feel bad talking about coaches. Maybe it's you know how that is. I mean, he was really disliked here. I mean, to a point where I couldn't actually believe it, because you've got to give him some respect for what he's done in his career as a player.
Oh, yeah.
And even, when he was with Germany and Bayern Munich, of course, we know what, I don't think it helps him that Lam comes out and say, that he had no idea. He knew it within weeks when he was at Bayern. Toni Kroos at Real Madrid said the same thing. So I don't think that helped him. But I think you give him benefit of the doubt. But trust me, when you watch games and when you watch what he did, how he managed within the games, I think you'd know right away. And of course, what he did against Mexico, the first game against the biggest rival, to go to 3 in the back, which he never ever played in a competitive match, maybe played once. I mean, it was unforgivable, really, because he didn't really have the horses to do that.
Now, who takes over now that Jurgen Klinsmann's gone? Because he's a huge name, no matter whether you liked him or not, or whether he was popular. I mean, he was an iconic world-class footballer. Is that the sort of person that the USA are going to be looking for again, or are you going to say, right, let's go back to what we did before with Bobcat Bob and give a Native American?
Janusz may not be familiar with our phrase for Bob Bradley, which is Bobcat Bob, partly because he used to run a team called the Detroit Bobcats.
That's
I think
right,
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him well as well, but it will be Bruce Arena. It'll be announced tomorrow. It's a sure thing. Bruce Arena, of course, who's
from LA Galaxy.
2002.
Yeah.
Yes, and in 2002 that was the best showing in the World Cup. It was a tremendous team, obviously that beat Mexico in the quarterfinals. Should probably have beaten Germany, and if you remember that semifinal was just incredible. So he will be there. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the long-term manager. That's up to him, depending on how he will play, I suppose. I think there's going to be always the federation is always going to be on the lookout for a longer term. But I think Bruce is the sort of manager that will stop the bleeding because he keeps it simple. I think he understands the mentality of the American player, which I don't think Jurgen did. I think he's going to. I don't want to say do away with the foreign players, but certainly they're going to have to be something better than you have here. I think that's going to be announced maybe as early as tomorrow. That's 99% sure.
And what do you think is next for Klinsmann? I mean, from what you've been describing, he doesn't have too many friends in the football business in Germany. And there's always been an admiration for him here because of his time at Spurs as a player. I mean, can you see him coming to the Premier League? I mean, for example, if Swansea lose another couple of games, they got Crystal Palace coming up this week. If they don't get something out of that, it's entirely possible Bob Bradley will be out of a job. And with Swansea's American connections, I mean, could you see him going there?
I almost think that Jurgen fancies himself a little bit at the higher level. I don't know if this is Swansea. I think he's probably smart enough to know that this could be after this. It could be another failure, right? I mean, if you look at Swansea's squad, I don't necessarily think that Jurgen can do better than anybody else, be it Bob Bradley or anyone. This is a team in trouble as it is. So. No, I don't see that. I could see him in England, I suppose, because of what you said, his time at Spurs. And, people like that will always get the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure you've heard that, big rumor confirmed by a lot of sources. I don't know how true that is, of course, is Galatasaray in Turkey. I'm not so sure about that. I think he'll take some time off right now. I don't think he's going to make an immediate decision right now. As I've mentioned, he's got kids here, one playing, and I do believe he's got a daughter that's 15 years old as well. His fondness for America and California in general. So I don't think that's going to be something that we're going to see immediately. He'd be wise, I think, to kind of wait a little bit and make sure that he gets in an environment that he can be successful in.
And let me ask you about Spurs, because they're playing tonight in the Champions League. They've got to go to Monaco. Big game for them, of course. If they don't win, there's pretty likely that they won't progress in the Champions League. Will that be a failure for you?
In that group, yes, it would be. I don't think they'll win. I think Monaco is good enough not only to beat it, but at least get a result. They got Chelsea looming on the horizon as well, right? Yeah. So I suppose it was a big win the other day. Harry Kane coming, scoring as well. So nothing's impossible, but I think this Monaco team is good enough and smart enough to make sure and get a result. You have to know how to do it, and Monaco is one of those teams.
Right. Mm-hmm. And as far as just that one final question for you, Janusz, as far as the top of the Premier League is concerned, who do you like the look of so far coming into the sort of Christmas period?
Well, I mean, you got to give credit to Chelsea, right? If there's any doubt about Jose Mourinho and players playing underneath him, Conte is dispelling that, isn't he? I mean, it's an incredible job. 6 straight, 6 clean sheets. You look at a team that even Willian can get a shift on that team, right? I mean, not even arguably, I think, by far the best player last season. Players like Moses getting second lease on life. Marcos Alonso, who probably in England nobody knew really. Let's be honest here. And Matic, everybody's back. So I don't necessarily know if it's just his enthusiasm, but I'll tell you what, he's doing a tremendous job. So you've got to like what they're in it to win it, as I said it. And Chelsea, for me, at the moment, have to be favorites. And of course, the competitive nature of the Premier League will mean that there'll be tests for them. I'm sure they're going to have a soft patch, and this Spurs game is a big one. But they're looking good, aren't they?
They really are. They really are. Janusz, listen, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us.
Good to talk to you.
He doesn't sound like a massive fan of Jurgen Klinsmann to me, and I guess he's outstayed his welcome by the sounds of it in the United States.
I think you're right
America.
about that. I think he's outstayed his welcome. I think that, is he American now, Jurgen Klinsmann?
I don't know if he's become a dual citizen. He may well have done.
But
he certainly, as Janusz was saying, he likes the California lifestyle. He's got kids there now.
But he also, over the years, you've detected that Teutonic arrogance, haven't you, within Jurgen Klinsmann?
Well, I wouldn't say it's Teutonic arrogance. It's just arrogance,
born of his extreme football talent, which you can kind of understand, but in America it doesn't go down well.
It doesn't, no. And also people don't like being told that you know more about it than they do because they don't really play football.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, we shall see. So it doesn't sound as though there's a spot for Bobcat Bob after all, because it sounds as though this guy Bruce Arena's going to get the job.
Bobcat Bob's got to push the envelope against Palace.
Yeah, he's going to have to do that, and he's going to
get out the radar, find out where Palace is. South London, Croydon.
Is that where he's going, or is it not at Swansea the game? I don't know.
Hey?
Isn't it a game at Swansea?
The game is at Swansea.
I think it is.
Right, yeah.
So he just has to find his radar to get
to the
Swansea
to get to this.
in actual fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I've got lots more to talk to you about. We're going to pick the listography subject coming up next on
Yes.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Here comes the dog! Here comes the dog! Here comes the dog! Here comes the dog! Stop beating that bird, 'cause here comes the judge. Don't nobody budge, 'cause here comes the judge. Judge Shorty is presiding.
Now, David says this. I'm not sure if I can read this out without sort of using a euphemism of some kind, but he's right about this. Prince wrote a song for Sheena Easton called Sugar Walls, which I believe was about her intimate parts. That's the best way I can put it, really.
Well, I think we'll move on from that because this is a family show.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, well, okay. You want to mention that?
Sorry, I mean, I'd like to read out the tweets that we get.
Yes.
Now, here's the news that I've got for you, which is the bad news, right? Our good friend, Mr. Peter Myers, who runs Myers of Keswick.
He does.
Fantastic shop in Lower Manhattan.
Fantastic bakery, I would call it
these
days.
Sausages. I'll tell you what, when I was over there in May, my sister had bought some of his sausages, and I have to tell you, they were the best sausages
of course
still that I've ever eaten.
Because Peter is a Westmoreland man, isn't he?
He's from from Keswick.
Excuse me.
Myers of Keswick is the name of the shop.
Yeah, Myers of Keswick. Keswick's in Cumbria. Used to be Westmoreland. And brought up there in the family butchery business, of which he's now become an expert.
Yep.
And he started off, didn't he, as a barman, I think. He
did, in the Bells of Hell.
In the Bells of Hell. And then, but I think he acquired interest in it, didn't he?
I believe so.
Did he buy it?
I think he certainly was part owner of it.
But then he moved on.
But then it got shut down, I think, because somebody bought the block.
Yeah, something like that,
But it was before my time. I never went there.
No, I never went there.
But apparently it was quite a place.
Same thing happened to Eamon Durant.
It was in Hell's Kitchen, wasn't it?
It was in Hell's Kitchen. Same thing happened to our friend friend Eamon Duran, his Irish bar.
Yeah,
up on that
Costello's
part
is
of,
gone as well.
Yeah, well, the building hasn't gone, has it? Although the
No,
pub has, yeah.
no, but I mean, a lot of the places we used to drink are no longer there, is what I'm saying.
But anyway, so what's
well,
what's
anyway,
happened to
sadly,
Pete?
I sad to report over the weekend, he was involved in an accident. He drives around a motorbike, a BMW.
Well, he delivers his pies and things off the. He's got a little box on the back of his motorbike. I helped him go out and deliver some one night. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether it's. I mean, he does it for that, but he used. It's just a very quick way of getting around the city.
Sure.
A BMW R1200 GS.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's going to be putting it up for sale because he was basically run into by a truck as he was crossing 8th Avenue. Right. And he said this guy went through a red light.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's currently in Cornell Medical Centre, overlooking the 59th Street Bridge.
Right.
And he's got a broken pelvis. And he's got 4 broken ribs.
Well, that's
and
terrible.
Several other injuries.
That's shocking.
He's okay, though.
I didn't realise he was that bad.
No,
I thought
it's
he
quite
just
bad.
got knocked off his bike.
No, I mean, his daughter, who I used to know when she was quite little,
Yes.
who now kind of runs the business.
That's right.
Has been on Facebook, and I've been sending him good best wishes from us on Facebook.
Indeed, yeah.
Basically saying that he's going to be there for quite a long time. He's going to have to undergo sort of all sorts of therapy, just to be able to walk again.
Well, when you break,
and he's certainly never going to get back onto his bike. So we wish him all the best. And I know he listens to the show from over there. He came to see us, didn't he, in Hen and Chicken?
He did, yeah.
Last year.
He did. It was great to see him. And you say he's going to flog his bike, but his bike must be a bit of a wreck now. It's been hit by a truck.
It's not clear whether the bike was smashed up because, I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, if you ever see anyone coming off a motorbike, sometimes the bike just kind of skids away.
That's right.
But, I mean, he's obviously had a nasty injury.
He's broken 4 ribs.
He broke 4 ribs and he's fractured his pelvis, which is the same as breaking your pelvis.
Well, I hope he's not listening to our show now because we do like having a laugh with our listeners. But if you ever start laughing with broken ribs, it's very, very painful.
That's very true. Yeah.
It's very
I mean,
I had a couple of broken ribs.
I had a couple of broken ribs as well. It was dreadful because also they can't do anything.
No,
you can't strap
them
up.
No, you can't. You just...
all I could do, and I fell down the stairs actually.
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
No, I didn't.
What did you do?
I got hit
what do you
by.
mean I did, and then I didn't.
No, I remember now. I got hit by.
I remember now.
I got hit by a tube. A tube door.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what happened was I was...
Well, you can't get cracked ribs from that, surely.
Well, you'd think not.
Unless you were running into it.
No. What happened was...
the bladderation involved.
Not really. Not really. No. A woman was trying to get onto the tube with a pram,
right?
And she'd backed onto the tube, and she couldn't get the wheels.
The second set of wheels.
Yeah,
up.
that's right.
Yeah.
So I leant forward and helped her with the wheels, but her partner was holding the tram door, the train door, the subway train door. So as soon as
This is in London.
This is in London.
Yeah.
But as soon as I had lifted and freed the pram, and I put one foot forward into the tube train, he let go of the door, and so it banged, slammed into me, with some force because it wasn't just closing
normally. So it must have just caught you in the wrong place.
It did. It crushed me between that and the other, and then he was very concerned. I said, "No, it's okay," and I didn't think anything about it. And then I woke up the next morning, and I was in agony, literally. I fractured my ribs.
Well, it was when I was living in Scotland, and I lived in this very interesting house, which was a townhouse, but it was one of these places that only had one room on every floor. So it was about 4 floors.
Yeah.
And the stairs were quite steep.
Yeah.
And I'd been out quite late, and I'd come home and was going to have something to eat.
And there was bladderation involved,
There
obviously.
was, indeed.
Yeah,
and I went upstairs to see the mother of my children, although we didn't have any at that point.
Yes.
And I sat on the side of she was in bed, and I sat on the edge of the bed and had what dinner she'd made for me.
Yes.
We were having a very convivial conversation.
Yes.
And I went to take the plate back downstairs.
Yes.
And so I was carrying the plate, which didn't have any food on it any longer. And I think I had something else in my other hand, maybe a glass or something like that to refill.
Yeah.
And so both my hands were occupied.
Right.
And as I went halfway down the spiral staircase, my foot slipped.
Right.
And I fell and just landed right on the sort of back of my ribs.
The co-kicks.
No, that's the base of your spine.
It is, yeah.
No, this was like right on the side of the ribs.
Ooh, not good.
And I sort of ended up on the ground at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
But because a bit of drink had been taken, I thought I was fine.
Yeah, you are anaesthetised in situations like that. Yeah.
But then I tried to get up, and I couldn't move.
Yeah.
I was literally just lying there, right?
And the breathing problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'd hit that, what do you call that bit of the base of your spine again?
The coccyx.
The what?
The coccyx.
The coccyx. The coccyx.
Yeah, the coccyx.
The coccyx.
The coccyx.
Coccyx.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I just said.
No, you said coccyx.
Yeah, well, you didn't even know what it was called, so, just get on with the story with it.
Anyway, I know you hate it when I have to elongate these stories.
No.
Anyway, so I was crawling around and I realised I was actually in agony.
Yes.
And so she came downstairs and said, what the hell have you done? I said, I don't know what I've done. And she said, we better take you to hospital. And I said, that's ridiculous. I said, I'll be fine. I'm sure I'll be fine. There's no need for me to go to hospital. But she insisted. So we went to the Western Infirmary, which is down towards Partick, right?
Right.
And there was nobody there, luckily.
Down in Partick.
Partick.
Yes.
There was luckily nobody there.
Right.
And so I was asked to undress.
Yes.
And I took my clothes off and I put them on the floor. And this woman, very matronly, sort of nasty matron type, came in and said, would you do that at home? I said, do what at home? She went, drop all your clothes on the floor. I said, I do, actually. That's exactly what I do at home. Yeah, what's the problem with
that's
that?
typical, yeah.
And anyway, they x-rayed me and said, yeah, you've cracked 3 of your ribs.
Yes, shocking.
And I couldn't do anything.
No, you can't do anything.
So I stayed at home for a couple of days. And then I realised I might as well be at work.
Exactly.
And I was fine until I moved in a particular direction.
That's right. I know, yeah.
And for example, if I turned left in the car, I was fine. If I turned right in the car, I was in agony.
But turning over in bed as well.
I couldn't get out of bed. It took me 45 minutes to get out of bed.
You have to rock and sort of roll yourself over. It's shocking, I agree.
It was dreadful.
Now, talking about things like that.
Oh, you know what? We've got to pick listography.
Yeah, we'll pick listography in a minute, yeah. Did you see the report over the weekend, which is very relevant to you now, having bought yourself a Chelsea tractor, right?
It is not a Chelsea tractor.
Well, it's a Jaguar 4x4.
Yeah, but
right?
it's a Range Rover as a Chelsea tractor.
Yeah, well, you know,
this is nowhere near as big as a Range Rover.
Anyway, the point of the story is cars are getting bigger, right? Did you read that there are now twice as many bashes between cars in supermarket car parks as there were 5 years ago?
Do you know what they need to do with supermarket car parks?
They've got to widen the spaces.
They've got to make the spaces bigger.
Well, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
But one particular car park group, and I'm not sure which one it was, it could have been Sainsbury's or something, they're saying, look, we're just going to have to make the bays bigger because the problem is modern-day cars simply do not fit into bays which were basically designed for cars 25 years ago.
Do you ever go in those,
the Ford Escort?
Yeah. Do you ever go in those car parks now, the underground car parks sometimes, where they say this is a space for a small car?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, what's the point of that?
You can't get in. But the worst thing is, these multi-storey car parks, which were built like 15 and sometimes 20 years ago, they're going to have to knock them down because you are going to wreck the wheels of every car that ever goes in there. You see the amount of black rubber on the curbstones, and they make the curbstones very high deliberately to try and make it more prominent for you to follow the line. Yeah. But the problem is
that is a nightmare because you end up wrecking the car.
You end up wrecking the car, and some of the cars now are so big. Your car's a big car, and I think a Land Rover is even bigger. To be honest,
when I had the Discovery, the old style Discovery, that's bigger than this.
That's what I'm saying.
Much taller as well.
That's what I'm saying. And you try and get them in there, and there are going to be real problems in the future.
Absolutely,
and something needs to be done about it.
How about this from Donald J. Trump?
Oh, yeah.
I've just been sent this by somebody who's tweeted it at me from Anthony. Many people would like to see Nigel Farage represent Great Britain as their ambassador to the United States. He would do a great job.
Well, would he?
No. Oh, that's a really bad idea.
I think Mrs. May, our Prime Minister, is in a very difficult position because she doesn't want to hand over any sort of influence or power to Nigel Farage as our representative with the President-elect. However, our ambassador in Washington, D.C. has done such a poor job at building
she
bridges.
She may want to replace him,
Well,
that's true. Now, we'll run through a few of these quickly to see if we haven't got a lot of time. But here's one from Steve. Name 3 laws you would abolish or make law if you could.
Right.
And banning bicycles is not allowed.
Right.
Another one, name the 3 greatest holidays you've had. I think we've done that one.
Yes.
3 places you would take someone to impress on a first date.
Yes.
Gavin says 3 homoerotic situations you found yourself in.
I don't think so.
Top 3 individual sporting moments.
Right.
3 favourite rug moments. We're definitely not doing that one.
You're mad.
3 times you embarrassed yourselves from Simon. 3 celebrity deaths you remember where you were, had the greatest impact on you.
Yes.
3 people you interviewed who you admired previously but left you disappointed after meeting them.
Yeah.
3 times where you were grateful or humble.
Yeah.
3 biggest regrets.
Yeah.
3 worst sporting memories. 3 favourite cars ever bought or driven in.
Do you want to...
I don't see anything here that I like, really, so far.
What about 3 celebrity deaths?
3 celebrity deaths that you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, I suppose.
Or 3 regrets. Do you want 3 regrets?
I don't have any regrets.
I don't have regrets
Je ne
either.
regret rien.
Yeah, je ne regret rien.
We can't do that one.
3 celebrity deaths, then.
3 celebrity deaths. All right. We'll do that in listography coming up in the next hour. This is Talk Sport. some tweets to read out to you. One here from Andrew,
Yes.
which you might like, even though it's
Right.
harking back to the picture that you detest. Did Porky Photoshop the fireside bromance pic? He looks slimmer than MG.
Hey.
Yeah, I think it must be a funny angle.
Well,
It's because he's also you're kind of twisted into an odd shape
That's
because
right.
of your sciatica.
Yeah, suffering.
How is that, by the way?
Back. Well, it's not good, but I've introduced a new exercise regime.
Oh, really?
It's the gentle squat, actually.
Gentle squat?
Yeah, seriously. You have to lower yourself up and down very, very gently to
All right.
try and stretch out the trapped nerve.
Ah.
Well, the sciatica is basically a nerve that gets trapped, you know?
Right. That's what they call a trapped nerve.
Yeah, that's right. And it feels like the nerve's not long enough to go around the bits of the body it goes around, which is up and down the back of your legs and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Sometimes round the front of your leg and up through your back and all that kind of stuff. And when it gets trapped, it's very painful. But I think I have worked a way out to just ease it gently and try and make it work. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about this from William? And you may or may not know about this. He says, "Does Porky know as what scientists call the most deadly pathogens worldwide attacking all the olive trees? Xylella fastidiosa." I think you've talked about olive trees having a problem in the past, haven't you?
Yeah, but I don't care, actually, because I hate olives. I can't stand
you
them.
hate olives?
Well, they're bitter and they've got the big stone in the middle and the skin around an olive is hard. I don't know how anybody can eat them.
Skin around them's not hard.
It is. It's horrible. I like green grapes and I like red grapes,
Yeah.
but I can't stand olives.
Well, why would you have any comparison between the two?
Well, because they look a bit
Grapes are a
similar.
fruit.
Yeah, but an olive and a green grape look exactly the
Do
same.
you not like olives on pizza, like black olives on
No,
pizza?
no, I can't stand all that. No,
Don't
I
go
hate
with
anything
pineapple,
like that
I
on my
suppose, is it?
pizza. I don't want anything on my pizza like that, no.
Here's one from Elliot. He says, "Can you tell me why
Yes.
Graham Lasso deserves to have a say on the England manager's choice?" Well, this is another puzzling one that I was thinking about driving
completely
in tonight,
puzzling, yeah.
through the terrible rainstorms that we were having.
That's right, yeah.
Why appoint a five-man board if you've already got the candidate? You know you've only got one candidate.
Well-
There's no choice to be made in that candidate scenario.
Yeah, well, Graham Lasso was asked about that over the weekend, and Graham Lasso was once vilified as a footballer because he read The Guardian.
That's right.
And I thought that was disgraceful. That just meant that he was, seeking alternative views on life situations by reading different newspapers.
Yeah.
That's fine, no
he was
problem at all.
criticised for being a bit sort of soft, wasn't he? Basically?
A bit sort of arty.
A bit
and that
too
kind
arty, yeah.
And you've got to remember, in the world of football, anybody who illustrates, the need to acquire knowledge on current affairs and that kind of stuff is seen as different to other footballers.
Yes.
But when I saw him interviewed about it over the weekend as to why you're now involved in this scheme, he said, because there's got to be a process. And somebody said, but we know that there's a short list of one, and that candidate is Gareth Southgate.
But also, presumably,
so there has to be a process.
Presumably, the FA were paying Lasso for this,
of
this
course,
period of time as well.
Yeah.
Or is he? I mean, is he going to stay with them? Is it just for this particular job, or
No,
what?
he was appointed to the appointments board, if you see what I mean.
Oh, right, so he'll do it for a while then.
No, because once they appoint Gareth Southgate, which seems imminent, and somebody said it's going to be they're going to announce it at the board meeting on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
This Wednesday coming.
Oh, this
so
Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
That it's going to that's it. Then you dismantle the board because
mind you, after they appointed Sam
after that?
Allardyce, I presume they would have dismantled it a bit prematurely, not knowing that they would have had to reconfirm it.
Well, I totally agree
and put it all together. Now, you know what we haven't mentioned on this. I
haven't mentioned the weather, by the way. You mentioned that briefly, but there's some flooded roads on my way
I'm
in
interested
tonight.
because I've got to get back down to Sussex, and it may well be that between now and 6 o'clock in the morning, if there are trees down, they might not have cleared them. So I'll have to be on my mettle.
Are you going straight down there?
Well, I
here?
am, yeah. I am. Now, I'll tell you what we haven't mentioned. We mentioned quite a bit last week and also on the warm-up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Was, who are you? Who are you?
What?
Who are you?
Yes.
Ian Holloway.
Ian Holloway?
Yeah.
Is what?
Why are you looking at me blankly?
Because you say he's on the warm-up on Saturday.
No, I said since we talked about it a lot on the warm-up on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
He won his first game with QPR.
Yeah, we did. But
who are you?
It was quite an amazing game. They got a penalty after 3 minutes, missed it, but then went 2-0 up, and then one came back, and then, who are you? Managed to hold... Who are you? Exactly.
And also, give him the job. They've now given him the job.
Yeah,
give him the job. They should have put Ian Holloway on the board.
Yeah, maybe, because he gave the right advice, didn't he? Give him a job! Yeah, absolutely.
Give him the job.
Absolutely
Give him the
right.
job. That's right.
Now, I don't want you to necessarily allow this to affect your choices of celebrity deaths.
Yes.
53 years ago, according to William, today, John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Is that right?
Yeah.
53 years ago today. That was amazing, isn't it? Utterly amazing.
Do you remember that one? Maybe we should not allow that one because that's one everybody talks about.
Yeah, don't allow that one because I was so little in those days that my mum told me. I remember her telling me in the lounge in our house. You know, I think we must have had the gramophone on or something. You know, the radio gramophone or whatever.
Well, my memory of it is,
and I didn't know what she was talking about.
My memory of it was that we just got a television, I think.
Yes,
and it was black and white.
Yes,
and in the middle of the black and white television was the old BBC Globe.
Right,
that it turned around.
Yeah.
And the Globe was going round and round and round. I don't know why I remember this.
Yeah.
And underneath it was like a ticker tape thing that just said President John F. Kennedy has been assassinated.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was all it did for hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think, and I don't know what it's, those memories you're not sure whether you've got because you were told about it or because you actually remember seeing it,
or you've imagined it. Because,
I don't think I imagined
because
it.
you're trying to search your brain as to what was going on at the time when that information.
I was only
imparted,
3,
didn't you?
so I really have no business remembering it at all.
No, exactly.
I don't remember anything else from when I was 3.
No, exactly. It's
there we are.
It's one of those things. So we'll discard that from our list of what are we doing again? I've forgotten.
What do you mean?
What we're doing for listography?
Well, we're doing 3 famous celebrity deaths.
3 famous celebrity
deaths. Where we were when it happened.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we can do that, definitely.
Some people are already suggesting that you shouldn't be allowed to use John Lennon.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
But I don't mind if you do.
No, that's fair enough.
Have you seen this story on the back page of the Daily Mail?
Yes.
Manchester United have been left with red faces after another security blunder saw 2 supporters sleep undetected inside Old Trafford ahead of Saturday's match against Arsenal.
Yeah, well, football fans have been doing that for many, many years.
What, getting into stadiums the day before the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
I say the show, the day before the game.
They used to do it at Wembley regularly because Wembley used to have a dog track and they used to have, believe it or not, Wembley, the most revered football stadium in the world, used to have dog racing on a Friday night before the cup final.
Yeah.
So the number of times that fans would go, just pay 5 shillings to go into the dog and then try and literally...
And just stay. Was this when they didn't have seats everywhere?
Of course it was, and you just had these huge terraces and if somebody could get away with locking themselves in a cupboard overnight at Wembley, they'd find themselves in there for the game the next day.
But, I mean, presumably these guys must have gone in as part of a tour of the stadium or something like that.
It says the pair thought to be foreign students took an official tour of the Theatre of Dreams on Friday, I understand that, and then hid in the toilets.
Right.
They were only spotted the next morning after spending the night in temperatures of 2 degrees centigrade.
Well, surely in the toilets it wouldn't be 2 degrees centigrade, would it?
Well, I suppose they would... Well, you wouldn't think so, because if the water in the toilets froze, you've got a bit of a problem, haven't
Absolutely
you? So
right.
you'd think there'd be a bit of a heating in there, yeah. But
it is a bit of a security worry, though, isn't it? Because they're supposed to have better security than that.
I suppose it is, but I mean, it's not as if there was any terrorist threat or anything like that. You know what I mean? These were just a couple of guys who...
Well, yeah, but I know. But the point about terrorist threats is that if you don't manage to stop people who are not a terrorist threat from doing that, then how do you stop people who are?
Well, you could well be right. And what I would say, the only thing I would say is that presumably these guys just couldn't get a ticket for the game. Although in this day and age, there's plenty of scalpers floating around outside the
well, they might.
the
if they're students, they might be able to afford that.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you've often said that the cost of watching Premier League football now has become ridiculously expensive.
Well, I think it is, particularly if you've got a family, you want to take your kids and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see another report that'll be out tomorrow that Gareth Southgate, if he does get the job, his first problem will be to sort out the discipline required.
Yeah.
For the players who misbehaved, not just Rooney, but the other players, because the FA have decided to throw it back to him and say, well, if we appoint you as England manager, that's the first thing you've got to do.
Right.
Wouldn't you think he'd say, well, I'm interim England manager now, and the problem's now, so I don't think you should sort it out.
Yes.
Huh?
And also, shouldn't there be FA policy on it, rather than it changing with every manager that comes along? Because we all remember that Fabio Capello supposedly was this disciplinarian that the players didn't like because he wouldn't let them do anything.
Yeah.
And they got bored, which was always ridiculous to me. And then Roy Hodgson sort of came in and let them do things which appeared to be a little bit less strict.
One amazing fact I picked up over the weekend, okay? As soon as Gareth Southgate became almost obviously the England manager, he gets a phone call from Paul Stretford.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul Stretford, of course, is Wayne Rooney's mentor.
Yes.
He's not just his agent. He's almost
He's been with him since the beginning,
he's
isn't he?
his life coach, really. And
right.
when Wayne Rooney once filled in one of these questionnaires when he was about 17 or 18, favourite food, favourite film, who's your best friend, he put down Paul Stretford.
Did he?
And that's when he was a teenager, And
how did they meet? What was their relationship then?
Oh, Paul Stretford was just very good agent who realised the potential for Rooney, and Rooney was already attached to another agent on Merseyside.
Right.
But Paul Stretford moved in and eventually persuaded Wayne Rooney to go with him because he said he could help his career.
But so they don't have any childhood connection or anything like that.
No. But the interesting point in this is that Gareth Southgate got a call Paul Stretford, and Paul said, "Yeah, Gareth, great. When you become England manager, you'll come because his business complex is up in Cheshire. It's built around a farm complex thing, And Gareth said, "Well, yeah, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. But in fact, if I want to see Wayne, I'll go to the Manchester United training ground." You know? But then found out that actually Roy Hodgson, allegedly, had paid many visits to Mr. Stretford while Wayne was an England player under Roy Hodgson.
Right.
And, it's interesting, that, isn't it? Because why would you do that if you're the England manager?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Now, coming up, we could do a bit of listography if you wish, or we could leave it for a little while longer. We've still got lots of other things to talk about as well. This is TalkSport.
Who are you?
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
I wonder how Ian Holloway will get on through the rest of his season at QPR. But who are you will definitely become one of our watch words for a while. Here's one from Nick. He says, "I've given up trying to get to sleep tonight. I might as well go downstairs and make some tea while listening to the Two Mics on the TV."
Absolutely.
Now, I should tell you about this. I meant to tell you earlier. Mark, who listens to the show very regularly, sent me a piece of journalism from the weekend. The Sunday Times travel section had a special on Chester.
Oh, right.
Did you know that?
Well, I didn't actually, because I have the Sunday Times, but it takes me a week to read it, actually, sometimes. But it doesn't surprise me. Chester's a beautiful city. And I think they mentioned the hotel I stayed in, didn't they?
They do, actually. They mention...
Five-star
They
Chester
mention two places where you should stay.
Yeah.
There are just 7 chic bedrooms at Edgar House, which is a Georgian place on the walls.
It's on the city walls.
On the walls by the River Dee.
Yeah.
With a terrific restaurant.
That's right.
Have you been there, then?
No, I went to look at it, and I decided not to stay there because I thought it was too small and too compact, and I liked the facilities at the Grosvenor.
You could have had crystal chandeliers, button-studded leather headboards, and roll-top baths. I like a roll-top bath.
Definitely, yeah.
Doubles from $199. But then it says the 5-star Chester Grosvenor has classic decor and goes big for Christmas with multiple trees, lavish decorations, and an old-fashioned record player belting out Deck the Halls.
That's right.
Doubles from £149.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very cheap.
Well, it does seem cheap.
Hotel.
But didn't you stay in that's what I mean. That's why I didn't think when I looked at the pictures of it. And the entranceway doesn't look like a 5-star hotel. Yeah. And it's not 5-star hotel prices either.
Well, it is. The night I stayed, it was $280.
280. I thought you had the Prince William suite.
I did, but I got it.
Well, you get a suite for £280. That's not much of a suite.
Well, I got it discounted because I said to them, well, I had a few words with the general manager and all that kind of stuff, and I think the right, I might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was on sale at $420.
On sale?
Yeah, the listed price of the room.
Well, why did you get a discount then?
Well, I just had a few words with the general manager, and
what's his name?
Don't
you don't want to give his name out?
No, I don't want to give his name.
I mean, I stayed at the Windsor Suite, right, where the Queen has stayed.
Oh, yes.
In this hotel in Sussex when I went to Piers Morgan's 50th birthday party.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the only room left in the whole area.
Yeah.
And it was about £450.
Talking about Piers, there's a picture in one of tomorrow morning's newspapers showing Piers staring down Susan Reid's cleavage.
Is there?
Yeah, sitting next to her. And
well, she doesn't have much of a cleavage. It's a family show, that.
Well...
I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't have much of a cleavage, but she doesn't show much of a cleavage, is what I mean.
I think if you look at that picture, I think you'll find that she might have had a particularly tantalising outfit on.
Tantalising?
Yes.
What, on the breakfast show?
Yeah, apparently. Listen.
That's terrible, isn't it? Now, I'm going to tell you about a couple of other places, see what you've heard of it.
Right.
You've heard of a place called Odd Fellows?
Odd Fellows?
Odd Fellows, a cocktail bar in Chester.
Arms, yeah.
No, it's not the Oddfellows Arms. It's just called Oddfellows.
It used to be called the Oddfellows Arms.
No. Apparently
Yes.
you'd love this, right?
Yes.
Apparently it's transferred its bar into a ski lodge.
Yeah, well, that's what I said to you. It is.
But imagine a place that would transform its bar into a ski lodge. That'd be horrendous, wouldn't it?
It sounds a bit tacky.
You could walk through a blast from a snow machine.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, can you? I would walk straight out.
I know where the place
If I got a
is.
blast from a snow machine,
I would,
walking
yeah.
into a bar,
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Look, thanks very much.
I would.
I won't be back till the spring."
I would.
You can sit by the fire in the secret garden and sip a Las Posadas.
Mm-hmm. Where at the
You know what that
Oddfellows? At Oddfellows, you
I
mean?
mean, it all sounds a bit sort of...
very odd, that, yeah.
Very sort of
What else did it
yuppified, doesn't
mention?
it? It says a margarita with a jolly dash of fig and marmalade.
Yeah, yeah.
It also mentions the cheese shop in Northgate Street.
Right, yeah.
Sells 200 varieties of mostly British cheese.
That's right, it does.
As well as local chutneys, honeys and ales.
Yes.
Go to the Christmas market, it says.
Yeah.
Where you can buy a 40-foot fir tree. Why would you buy a 40-foot fir tree?
Well, because you want a tall tree, I suppose.
Homemade fudge, candles, wooden toys and more.
Sounds good.
It also talks about the Rose with various independent shops. Tick off various Christmas lists with a toy train set from the Chester Model Centre.
Yes.
A handmade woolen bear from Funky Aardvark.
Funky Aardvark.
Is Chester full of idiots or something?
No,
I mean, why do they have bars that
It's
make
a trendy
fake
town.
snow?
Trendy town.
And a place called Funky Aardvark. A jewellery shop called Powell's. Or down at street level, pop into the atelier of Nick Monroe and pick up seconds of the designer's kitchenware at bargain prices.
Yeah, there you go.
Talks about the Eastgate clock.
Yeah, the Eastgate clock's very
Stop in
famous.
at the brewery tap for a pint of pumpkin spiced porter.
Yeah, the brewery tap. Yeah,
Have they gone mad up there?
No.
Well, why have they got all this rubbish?
Well, it's not rubbish. Listen, talking about TV programmes, right, and all that.
I didn't know we were.
Well, we were, because I just mentioned Piers Morgan, didn't
Oh,
I?
yeah.
Were you a big fan of Parkinson?
No. I hated Parkinson.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
I liked his guests, but I didn't like him as an interviewer.
Why?
I thought he was, one, sexist.
Yeah.
And as you might remember, when he had Meg Ryan on, and she got very worked up and upset with him.
Yeah.
Because he started asking her questions that she objected to.
Yeah.
Because she thought they were a bit sexist in nature. And he was a bit like that.
And
because
so did Helen Mirren.
I don't remember Helen Mirren, but I do remember Meg Ryan. I always used to like Meg Ryan. And also, he was very kind of creepy and sedulous around women, and yet around men, he was also kind of a little bit too impressed with them, I always thought.
Yeah.
He never really asked any hard questions.
He's subject of a piece in a magazine over the weekends and said, I wasn't sexist, I'm just Yorkshireman. You know, they say that a lot, don't they?
Well,
you know,
but I'm sorry, he was sexist.
Yeah.
And he's not sexist because he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
He was sexist because he came from that generation of men.
Yeah.
You know?
I totally agree about the principle in which you're putting forward, but I'm not sure I regard him as sexist. But anyway, look, the point is...
let's just say that on certain occasions he came across that way.
OK. Now, he's 81 now, and what worries me is that he's still harping on about my interviews with Ali. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now, one of the reasons why they did this interview, he's now written a book, My Interviews with Ali.
What, just on that?
Yeah. It's called Muhammad Ali, a memoir, My Views Are the Greatest, by Sir Michael... Is he a knight? Sir Michael
I guess
Parkinson.
he must be.
It says here, yeah. I didn't realise that. But to be honest, it's... You know, I know he did interviews with Muhammad Ali and they were great television in the days and all that, but, it's... There's not an awful lot of other things he did in his life. But the other thing that got me, right, the other thing that got me was he started having a go at modern-day presenters.
Right.
So, for instance...
Well, he got in a bit of a row with Piers Morgan, I remember. And Piers came back at him because I think he was basically very critical of, Piers Morgan's true stories, whatever it is.
That's right, yeah.
And said that, he was a terrible interviewer.
He did, yeah.
And Piers came back with, well, at least I'm not advertising pens for old-age pensioners, which is what he's doing.
Exactly.
Or what he was doing.
Exactly,
doing,
yeah.
like life insurance or something.
Yeah, you can't get life insurance for this price anywhere else, you know. Yeah. You know, I know that. But anyway...
I've just seen that picture of Piers Morgan looking at... So she has got rather a sort of a low-cut top on for breakfast television.
Rather voluptuous, yeah?
Very much so.
Yeah, so...
Very nice woman. I met her at his party.
Yes, of course you did, yeah. So he goes on about James Corden, OK? So he says, James Corden's show is not an interview show. It's about James Corden, who's a very ebullient, funny, agreeable young man, but he's not an interview. Nor would he claim to be. If he does, then there's something wrong with me.
But you see, the problem for Parkinson, right, is that, one, an awful lot of people that now will be reading that have no recollection of him at all being on television, right?
Exactly.
And, it's a kind of Jurgen Klinsmann effect.
That's right.
Who said he was the greatest interviewer in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Why should he be giving advice on it?
That's right. And I think James Corden's brilliant, by the way. So I think he's picked on the wrong candidate.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say, Jonathan Ross has had his day. Early on, he set the pace. When he was young, when he was as young as his audience, it worked very well. Well, blimey, Parky, you're 81.
Was he not quite a good friend of some of the people that we knew? Like Phil Finn, for example, that we talked about
Phil
last week.
was his best mate, apparently.
Was he not one of his good friends because he was from the same part of Yorkshire?
Yeah, exactly. It was called the Mexborough Triangle, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. And Phil, just to explain to our millions of listeners, who was our colleague in New York, who sadly died. Was it this year Phil died?
I think it might have been earlier this year, yeah.
Esophagus cancer, was it?
I can't remember.
Something like that. But sadly, he died. But Phil was a Yorkshireman as well, who made his way through the Daily Express Manchester office, actually, to eventually to New York, and was a stalwart of the New York press corps. Stalwart. Yeah.
Stalwart.
Yes, that's him, yeah. And whenever Michael Parkinson came into town, first place he headed for was Costello's.
Yeah.
And
I think I might have seen him in there once.
Yeah, we did. And his old mate Phil Finn.
Yeah.
And he was very genial at the bar and very normal and all that,
Well, he was very genial at the bar as long as you were listening to him.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
like a lot
right,
of people used to come through there.
Yes.
They were not. And I mean, I see this from a very different perspective because I was kind of the young guy there.
Yes.
And a lot of the people who were older were very, very kind to me and great to me and taught me an awful lot.
Yeah.
Some of them were not.
Yeah,
Some
I
of
totally
them.
agree.
I remember one night being in the bar before I got to know Brian Vine terribly well.
Yes.
Who was the guy who was the head of the Daily Mail, Daily Express, I suppose.
Express,
wasn't he, in those days.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure. You were probably there. I'm not sure. It was very early on.
I came over once to do a bit of work experience with Fred Wayner.
Yeah.
And I thought, as I had ambitions to go to the Express, I'd ring him up. So, this very bumptious man, what for? What did you come to see me for?
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm a British journalist. I work for the Birmingham Evening Mail, and I'd always had ambitions to work for the Express.
Yeah.
What? Well, I don't know. What time to see you? I found out where they worked, where they drank, at Costello's. Went in there, and there were one or two younger guys who were okay, but Mr. Vine was, what are you bothering me for?
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff.
Well, he was in the sort of habit of buying drinks for lots of people.
Yes.
And in this particular scene, there was about 10 or 12 people all standing in a kind of a big circle.
Yeah.
And I was sort of on the outskirts of the circle. But he knew I was part of the circle.
Yes.
And he bought everyone in that circle a drink apart from me.
No, that's disgraceful.
And I never forgot it.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, he'll never forget me, because about 3 years after, what do you see me for? I haven't got time to talk to you. I was sent over there by Larry Lamb to take his job.
Yes, well, it's funny how the world works like that, isn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah.
Well, they do say if you stand by the river long enough, you see the bodies of all your enemies floating by.
That's right.
It's Chinese, that,
Yeah, it is, I know, yeah.
This is Talk Sport. Listography's next.
Ah, yes.
There was a lonely teenage Bronco buck with a pink carnation and a pickup truck. But I knew I was out of luck the day the music died. I started singing bye bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee.
That's one of my karaoke songs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, you remember the recording of this from Liverpool? I mean, Don't Look Back in Anger was only one of the songs I did. I did this one as well. Do you know why I was playing it, though?
Well, it's got to be to do with death, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, who's he singing about?
He was singing about the death of music.
No, not the death of music. He was talking about the death of Buddy Holly.
Yeah, the Buddy Holly, yeah. Yeah, that's right, yeah. But the actual words say the day the music died.
Yeah, but
that's
that was the day of the music. It's about Buddy Holly dying in a plane crash.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Now, you've got to do 3
Yes.
celebrity deaths, not including
Yes.
John Lennon or JFK.
I agree.
That affected you, where you were at the time.
Yes.
And what it all means for
Okay.
mankind.
Okay.
Go on, then. You ready for one?
Yeah, I am.
Go with you first.
I'll go first. My first is Elvis Presley.
Yes.
Now, this is not a good story, okay? I was on...
Well, they're all about death, really, so...
Yeah, but I regret it to this day for lacking respect.
Oh,
but I was on holiday in Torquay.
How were you?
With the lads. We were about 18.
Okay.
And we were staying in the same apartment in Torquay, which is basically 3 bedrooms, but we were bringing lots of female company back each night.
Torquay was where I went for my first sort of dirty weekend.
Well, there you go, see, there you go, that sort of thing. And, of course, if you couldn't find an empty bedroom, you had to share a bedroom with somebody else who was, who was also involved in horizontal refreshment.
Yeah.
But there was so much drink and...
it sounds a shocking sort of revelation scene.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible. So much drink and, may I say, some nefarious substances, floating around, that it was real rock star stuff, really. You know what I mean? But anyway, on about the third day, at about 6 o'clock in the evening, we switched on the flickering black and white television that was in the apartment to learn that Elvis Presley had died. And instead of getting all respectful and saying, no, not Elvis, we all started laughing. And I don't know why.
Well, like singing Elvis songs.
Yeah,
and all
singing Elvis songs and laughing and all that. And
but he wasn't really, I mean, you're slightly older than me, but I mean, for me, Elvis wasn't really a thing.
No.
And it was only really after he died.
I agree.
That I kind of started to listen to his music.
I mean, to me, before he died, you're absolutely right. He was just something that I'd read about in books or something. I don't think I'd ever seen him sing a song or anything. Or
no.
I'd never collected his LPs.
And also, he'd become, I mean, when you were a teenager, he wasn't very cool.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
I mean,
cool.
He died right in the middle of punk as well, didn't he?
Well, this is the whole point. So anyway, we go out that night in Torquay as ever. And the great chat-up line that night, because it was great, you know, we try a different chat-up line every night. You go up to a young lady looking very forlorn, you know, and just tap her on the shoulder, and she turn around and say, hello, and she'd say, oh, hello, you know, smiling, beaming, you know, seeing my face and all that. And then I'd say, he's dead. And she'd say, who?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, who are you? Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say, Elvis.
Right, the King.
The King, that's right. Yeah, you know. And then do a sort of, you know, are you lonesome tonight? And it was a great pickup line that night. Yeah. So I'm afraid it's a bit disrespectful, but I mean, it was kind of, you know, I excuse myself for my lack of respect because
it is quite shocking.
I was so young. But it worked. It worked half a dozen times.
Okay. That really, I mean, there are no depths to which you will not plumb for horizontal refreshment purposes, or indeed money purposes.
Yes.
Now, my first one's going to be Ayrton Senna.
Okay, Ayrton Senna, yeah.
I was working at the Daily Express in London, having just been sort of moved from one department to another, and and it was a Sunday, I remember, because it was San Marino Grand Prix. Yeah. Back in, I think I checked the date, it was 94.
Yes.
And I was basically in charge of the back bench for the first time.
Right.
And
which newspaper was this?
This was the Express.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I remember watching. And on a Sunday, you know what it was like. It was always very relaxing. The real editor wasn't in.
Yeah.
I think David Emery was the editor of the day, so he was the sports editor. And
yes.
they would get, you know, he had the duty to be in charge of the whole paper.
Yes.
And it was kind of quite quiet. It was the afternoon, and the race started. And I just remember watching the car crash. Remember, it crashed into a wall.
Yeah, I do. And the front wheel came off and ran over his head.
And also because you just knew immediately, somehow, because there was absolutely no activity at all. Normally, you know, the car would crash.
And the guy
would
scramble out
of the car.
Yeah.
And for a long time, because the coverage, I guess, in those days wasn't what it is now.
No.
For a long time, the footage was just a picture of the car.
That's right. Up against the wall.
Up against the wall.
Yeah.
And you just had this feeling that you knew that he wasn't getting out of it.
Yeah, that's
something
right,
terrible had happened.
Yes.
And it was the reason I remember it so well is because it was the first kind of massive story
that
I'd been involved in where I was actually in charge of what to do with it.
That's right, yeah.
And I had to work out what to do on which pages. And, and you know, with the help of other people, we put out a pretty good paper. And, But it was just quite a shocking event because he was such a young man, such a great driver.
Yeah.
And at that point, you never really thought that it could happen, you know?
I was down at my sister's house and my brother-in-law said, are you watching the race? I said, and I was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He said, they've said that Ayrton Senna's clinically dead.
Yeah.
I said, what?
I know.
You know,
it was quite shocking.
Yeah, and it was, I agree. Right, okay, now my second one's much more serious than my first.
Okay.
And it is literally my footballing hero, Alan Ball.
Yeah.
And I was at home and I got a phone call from our old pal, Paul Breen Turner.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew Alan Ball very well because Alan Ball used to go out to Marbella and do events and football coaching
Paul's
schools.
Bar and stuff?
Not really at Paul's Bar, but Paul used to sort of act for him over there, you know what I mean, and that kind of stuff. And he had coaching schools there and all that kind of stuff. So he rang me and he said, are you watching Sky? Because you can get Sky in Spain in those days. I mean, I know you can now, but it was the early days and they still had it. And I said, no, what is it? He said, Alan Ball. I said, what about Alan Ball? He said, I said, what? He's dead? What are you... I said, Paul, I said, don't be ridiculous. I said, I saw him last week.
Yeah.
I said, we were at Newmarket.
And were you not aware that he wasn't well?
Well, nobody was aware he wasn't well because he wasn't unwell. He was well.
Right.
So I said, Alan Brazil, and I were with him at Newmarket last week, and I saw him. I said, in the owners and trainers room, we had a horse running there. He said, I'm sorry, but unless I've gone mad. And so I switched it on, and the story unfolded. He'd been watching the football the previous night, a European game.
Right.
He'd had a bit of a barbecue or a bonfire or something in the back garden with a few friends round and all that. And he'd gone out to put it out, and he collapsed in the garden and died of a heart attack.
So it was just a very. I'm sorry.
No.
I just thought perhaps he'd had a long-running illness.
No. You know, people can just die of heart attacks, and he just did. And he wasn't found until next morning by his son. Who spoke to his dad every day on the phone. He'd rung him, hadn't got a reply, wondered what. And Al had also gone through some terrible times with his wife and his daughter, who had both suffered cancer. Right. And he'd had health problems within the family, and then suddenly he just died like that, and it was shocking. And it was, I was absolutely devastated because he'd been my footballing hero when I was a kid, and I used to go to Goodison Park and watch him in the Champions 1970.
But you got to know him as well.
Well, I was about to say, one of the proudest relationships of my life was that 30 years later, I was Alan Ball's friend, and I could go into a bar at Newmarket Racecourse and stand there and drink with him and talk football, which he always wanted to talk about. Yeah. He was the nicest man in the world. We were in a restaurant one night, and he realised that some other people in the restaurant were uneasy because he was Alan Ball and they didn't know whether to get up and approach him when he was eating and all that. So he said, hang on, fellas, let me sort this out. I was with Paul Breen Turner. And he got up and he went around every table and said, hello, how are you? Do you want to take a picture with me? Do you want me to sign your menu? And he did all that and then came back and sat down. Right. And it completely changed the atmosphere in the restaurant.
Okay. All right, well, that's a good one. My second one is, because the other thing I should have mentioned, I thought we didn't need to outlaw it, but Princess Diana, because we've already talked about that many times, is also not going to be included on this list.
That's right, I agree, yeah.
Big Paul Castellano is my second one.
Oh, yeah.
Who was, of course, a mafia chief over in New York.
Yes.
And he was gunned down in the street on 45th Street outside Sparks Steakhouse in 1985 when I was living there. Yeah. And not only was I living there, but I was round the corner in Costello's with Mickey Brennan, funnily enough, who's just sent me a beautiful picture of Led Zeppelin that he took a while ago.
Yes.
And because of the way that it was working in those days, he got a phone call from Bob Young, who was the picture editor of the New York Post.
Yes.
And Castellano had been giving evidence to the court. He'd basically turned state's evidence against John Gotti.
Not a good idea.
Down in the Centre Street courthouse, right?
That's right.
And he had got into a car, a Lincoln Town car, obviously, been driven up to Sparks Steakhouse after his appearance in court, and was about to go in and have his dinner, where two guys walking on the street basically pumped bullets into his head as he was trying to get out of the car. Yeah. And we got a phone call in Costello's, or Mickey Brennan did, from Bob Young saying, can you nip round there and get a picture? Yeah. Because, you know, by the time they were downtown, by the time they get up, it's going to be too late.
That's right.
So he and I went round. He said, why don't you come with me? I was like, okay. And it was an incredible scene. Never seen anything like it apart from in a film.
Yes.
You know, you remember the picture, which was Brennan's picture, of the chauffeur's feet were still in the car, right? But his door was open and the rest of his body was on the street.
Yes.
There was blood running out of the side of his head.
Yes.
Pat Castellano was in the back seat. The door was partially open.
Yeah.
But he was just slumped in the seat with a bullet right in the middle of his forehead.
Yes.
And the guys apparently didn't bother doing anything at all. They just walked, because it was about 4:35 in the afternoon in Manhattan. They just walked off into the sort of the commuting thousands who were walking around Grand Central Station. I don't think they ever caught them.
No, I don't think they ever did. I always thought...
And I think they did the old thing of, you know, leave the gun, take the cannolis. Yeah, I think they just dropped the guns there as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But we got there literally, I would say, within 5 minutes of the event.
Right. That's fantastic. And the police hadn't...
Police weren't there yet.
Really?
The police weren't even there.
Really? Good God, that's amazing.
I mean, that's how quickly we got around there. And I don't know how they found out.
And that's a very famous Mickey Brennan picture, is it?
It is.
Yeah. Brilliant, yeah.
That's my second one.
OK, my third one is Amy Whitehouse. Now,
Amy Winehouse.
Winehouse,
I was going to say her, actually, but I didn't, so I'm glad I didn't.
OK, Amy Winehouse. And I was in the back garden of my sister's house in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not certain, it was the same day I did the Cinnamon Challenge.
Really?
Yeah, because my nephew organised that, you see. We did it in that back garden.
Yes. I saw your sister's back garden, I immediately recognised it.
Exactly.
That's where you'd done the Cinnamon Challenge.
Exactly, and I think it was. And I think we were sitting on the patio after doing that and having a laugh because we'd played it back. And all of a sudden, the phone went and somebody said, have you heard about Amy Winehouse? I said, no, why? She said, she's dead. And I thought... Now, about 10 days earlier, I'd been to some event where her dad was, Mitch.
Oh, yes.
And he told me this story. He said, I don't know. And he said that once a week he goes round to a house and picked up 12 or 14 dresses that she'd brought home from Harrods, right? Which didn't even fit her. And he didn't know why she wanted them, because she would never have worn them, ball gowns, all this kind of stuff. And he would take them back and get them refunded on her account. You see what I mean? Yeah, and he said, she...
And we've learned quite a bit about their relationship since her death, haven't we?
Yeah, and anyway, I was quite shocked because I thought, what a waste. You know what I mean? I mean, it was obvious she'd had drink and drugs problems for a number of years. We'd read about it all in the newspapers, but I was absolutely terribly shocked because I thought she was a very talented young lady. And I thought to myself, what a terrible waste.
It was a terrible waste. And that was quite a shock. But I'll tell you what was a bigger shock, and that's my third one, my last one.
Yeah.
It's David Bowie.
David
because
Bowie.
Nobody knew. I mean, the one thing you knew about Amy Winehouse was that she was probably
on the edge,
on a kind of, collision course with problems because of the way that she'd been behaving. But David Bowie, I think one of the few celebrities who nobody knew anything about privately. I mean, somehow he managed to keep his illness a secret from everyone. And I remember seeing a guy being interviewed who was, I think, producing a play or something with him, and he'd been told about the fact that he had cancer, but was sworn to secrecy and never told anybody else. And so I think, I believe I woke up in the morning, after having worked, I think, in those days until about 6 o'clock. I think I'd gone to sleep for a couple of hours.
Yes.
And I remember waking up and hearing it on the radio and doing one of those, where you kind of do a double take and sort of sit straight up and start checking the internet.
Yes, that's right,
Because I couldn't believe it, because I thought, well, surely if we'd known that David Bowie was ill, then, we would have expected something like this to happen.
Shocking.
But it was very shocking and quite upsetting. It was one of those,
I agree.
I would say, that was quite upsetting. And then we all played his music for a long time.
Look, that's what you do, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, not in your case. If you go with Elvis Presley, you just used it as a device to get yourself involved in more horizontal
Well, you've got to remember, I was very young and impressionable in those days, so it was perhaps a bit inappropriate.
It was indeed. That was listography. Lots more to come on TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Today you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. But still before we go, do it all again. You better catch your own train.
Here's a tweet from Chris who says, God, what a cheery segment that was. Well, Chris, not everything in life is cheery, Sometimes things are worth discussing, even if they don't make you laugh.
But I mean, you've got to take the good with the bad and the smooth with the rough,
and
in life.
smooth.
Because if you just gloss over those things...
The dark and the shade.
Yeah, that's right. That you find, hard to accept.
I have to say, you're one of the few people who can make somebody's death, i.e. Elvis's death, make me laugh, actually.
Well, no, I didn't mean to. It was just the way that things happened and, my behavioural pattern at the time.
Yes.
Which, of course, I would never justify or try to repeat.
No, of course
under
not.
any circumstances.
Absolutely not. Now, a couple of people have agreed with me about old Parkinson. David says this, I agree with MG, and in Australia, he has continued a hate campaign against Meg Ryan ever since.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
He says in that piece I read over the weekend that he's more famous in Australia than he was in this country.
Because did he not go and do a separate talk show there?
Yeah, absolutely.
After the one here finished?
Absolutely. National icon, he called himself
And
in
also,
Australia.
did he not do, after he finished the BBC show,
Yes.
and I think he always felt a bit bitter and
he went
twisted
to Sky,
about that.
didn't he?
He went to Sky and did one there.
Yeah, that's right,
Which
yeah.
I don't think went very well, did it?
I don't know, really. I can't judge on that. I mean, once you've hit your peak like that and you've done all those shows on the BBC, it's always very difficult to come back, isn't it, in a different form because people remember you for what you were.
Well, exactly.
He also, by the way, did Desert Island Discs.
What, as the host?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, which I didn't realise. And, of course, he was one of the four, wasn't he, who started TVAM, wasn't he?
Was he?
Wasn't
What,
he
along with Greg Dyke?
No, with the presenters. There was him, Angela Rippon, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I thought he was.
I'm not sure.
I thought he was, I'm not sure.
I don't remember that.
He also puts down Terry Wogan in this one as well.
Oh, that's nice.
He says, Terry Wogan was not a rival. I would never say that. Terry Wogan's claim to fame was as an interviewer. I would say not at all. So, and you remember Terry Wogan obviously had an interview show because the most famous interview we ever did was with a very drunk George Best.
That's
remember?
right. Yeah.
And we were in the newsroom at the Express. I was the news editor, and
right.
we'd only just had it renovated.
This was before Wogan became a sort of national treasure. And had his, I guess he would have still had his radio show, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
no, I remember.
so.
I remember he had a chat show.
Yeah, he had a chat show, and it was usually about 6:30 at night. I remember one of the first people who ever invited onto it was Boris Becker, who'd just become Wimbledon champion at 17.
Yes.
And when Boris Becker walked on, spoke immaculate English and had such self-confidence in himself, at 17. Right. Even Wogan was blown away by
Did you see him at the weekend, by the way? Because I watched a bit of the Murray-Djokovic game.
No.
It was last night, in fact, because they were playing at the O2.
Yeah, sure.
The ATP thing's been on. And it was to sort of once and for all work out who was the world's number one tennis player. Because if Djokovic had won it, he would have gone to number one.
That's right.
But now Andy's won it, he's gone to number one.
That's right, yeah.
And, it was quite a good game as well.
And bomber Boris Becker is still Djokovic's
he is.
coach.
And he was sitting there watching him. And he's a very cool guy. He's
very cool.
People,
yeah. But anyway, so George Best came on that night, and I remember sitting there watching it, thinking this will be quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I was the first to detect that George Best was absolutely paralytically drunk.
You were the first to detect
I was the first.
Why?
Yeah. Because I said to someone, I said, "Hey, is this our imagination?" And they said, "What?" I said, "I'm watching this George Best interview on Wogan." I said, "He's off his head, isn't he?"
Yeah.
So everybody started looking at it, and then looking around, and then more people gathered round. And then it became a national sensation.
And it was kind of a car crash interview, wasn't it?
And everybody in the office, in every department, including the editor's office, because he started ringing the news desk, saying, "Are you watching this?" You know, and we said, "Are we watching it?" So we discovered it, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And it was an absolute. Well, you say it was a car crash. I thought it was highly amusing.
Yeah.
And I thought George Best was at his irreverent best.
Yeah.
You know, he kept patting Wogan on the arm, saying. I like screwing. I do like a bit
But it
of
didn't do
screwing.
him any favours, though. Let's put it. That's
Well,
what I
it
mean.
didn't really. No, it didn't really.
I mean, it's all right for people like you who have absolutely no moral compass whatsoever.
That's right,
so for you, appearing very, very drunk when you're an athlete on television is not a
Oh
problem.
yeah, but he'd finished playing
I know
years
he'd
before.
finished playing,
yeah.
But I mean, but he was not. He did not put himself in a good light. Let's
No,
put
he
it that
did.
way.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And the true George Best sort of came out that night, and then. There was a huge inquiry afterwards as to
how he was allowed on air.
Exactly.
Because wouldn't there have been some massive Ofcom complaint?
No,
because you're not supposed to put drunk people on the air, are you?
Not only why was he allowed on air, but in the first place, why was George Best allowed in the green room for 2 hours before the show? When the green room is basically full of free drink, endless amounts of free drink.
Yeah.
So to make the guests who are going on to shows just loosen up a bit.
Yeah.
But George Best didn't just loosen up. I mean, he fell apart. And
well, the problem for probably like him is that he was probably if he went there and had a glass of wine, that wasn't the first glass of wine he'd had that day.
Maybe not. That could be true. I saw George Best once in a pub in Stockbroker Belt.
Yeah.
And when I got in there, and it was shortly after opening time, George Best was standing at the bar. He was already unsteady on his feet. And I would say there were at least 4 drinks lined up for him. You know, wine, gin and tonic and all that. And, of course, I said everybody walks past George Best, buys him a drink. And, just lines it up on his table.
I know.
And that's it. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have to take them all, I suppose. I mean, that's the situation.
Well, but he was a chronic alcoholic as well. So, and I mean, sadly, his mum died of drink problems. So it obviously ran in the family. So that's what it's about. Now, according to a newspaper report for tomorrow morning, the weather is going to be the worst for 5 years this Christmas. It's going to be colder than it's been for the last 5 years.
Yes, well, that's good if we get some snow, isn't it?
Well, I like.
So you're not a fan of snow.
I like a bit of snow.
I mean, if you like a bit of snow, you can go up to that bar in Chester and get them to blow some fake snow at you.
Well, no, I think if there's going to be snow, I might even head down your way, because that could be quite wild. But the best place to be when it's snowing...
What do you mean head down my way?
Well,
You're going to turn up for Christmas, are you?
No, I'm not going to turn up for Christmas, mate, particularly if I have to stay in the same shack a mile away across the fields.
Well, I don't think you'd be welcome at Christmas.
No, I don't think I would be either. But what I'm saying is, it's in those sort of rural landscapes that the snow lies.
Well, indeed.
It doesn't lie in towns.
Well, it doesn't lie too much on the seaside either, does it? So if you were to go down to Gosport, you wouldn't get much snow down there.
No, but the best place to go for snow in this country is head north. I mean, I might even head for County Durham. in the early new year.
Well, you won't be able to get there in that car of yours if you haven't got four-wheel drive, because it starts snowing in this country. You can bet your bottom dollar. The next story you're going to see, right, and mark this down, will be that there's going to be a shortage of gritter lorries.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a shortage of salt because nobody will have bought enough of it because they don't like to buy it when they don't think they need it.
You saw the picture that was sent to us today on Twitter, the cabinet in another supermarket short of double cream, didn't you?
Well, you see, again, you've turned this now. No, you've turned
Yep.
this cream shortage nonsense into some kind of crusade,
No,
right?
no.
There is absolutely
happening.
no evidence from anyone in the business, including people who work at supermarkets, by the way, because one of the guys who put that out and said that Morrison's had run out of cream got a response from Morrison's who said, look, please be aware that there is no problem and we will be fulfilling and stocking up the shelves.
Oh, really?
There's no problem at all. And all the people that we know who are working in the milk business, who tweet us on a regular basis, say there is no shortage of anything being delivered. It's just laziness for people not putting out the proper stock on the shelves.
Well,
That's what it's all about.
I don't think it is.
And I tell you what, if anything has resulted in a shortage, it will be because you've caused it. Because you've caused a run on cream.
Not at all.
Yeah, you have.
No,
you've
no.
made people panic before Christmas, and you've made them all go out there and buy the stuff that they think isn't going to be there on Christmas week.
Not true.
Because you know how stupid people are in terms of, if they think there's going to be a shortage or something.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Millions of our listeners are included in this, this sweeping statement of yours about how stupid people can be.
All right, what happens?
Never figured out you could be the stupid one.
No.
You don't even realise there's going to be a
There's
cream
only two of us
shortage.
in here.
Okay.
Right.
Well, when you're sitting down at your table,
it's finally happened.
In your rural,
I've finally got you shouting at me.
In your rural retreat on Christmas Day, and your two boys are there, and there's no double cream to put on their Christmas pudding.
I'll blame you.
Well, you can blame me if you
I'll
want,
blame you.
but I'll blame you for your lack of foresight. I'm already stockpiling cream for Christmas.
This is what I mean.
Because
this is what
I don't
idiots
want
do.
my family to go short.
This is what idiots do. You stockpile cream.
No.
It won't even be usable by the time you get it for Christmas.
It's called being ahead of the game. It is
it's called
because the sell-by dates are January and February.
It's called causing people outside of your world to suddenly have to do without because you're stockpiling. That's typical of you. Stockpiling cream.
Yes.
You don't even like cream.
Well, my family will want it for Christmas Day, and I'm going to make sure we don't go without.
Do you know what you're going to do? You're going to be standing on the side of the M3 with a big crate of cream, flogging it to people for £5 a box.
No, but I will help out those that I care about if necessary.
Okay, great. Well,
that doesn't include you, by the way.
Of course it doesn't. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light! Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the Two Mics.
What do you call that bit of the basic spine again?
The cockits.
The what?
The cockits.
The cockits. The cockits.
Yeah, the cockits.
Coccyx.
The coccyx.
Coccyx.
That's right, yeah. That's what I just said.
No, you said cockits.
Yeah, well, you didn't even know what it was called, so, just get on with the story with it.
Making plays.
Well, he's saying, we've got a bunch of guys here. We gave up a late goal, and we have to continue.
Who are you?